is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot on my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in.
What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy Phil, all caps, back with another episode of the Knicks Nightcap. And of course, I will be joined by my man, Mr. Apollo Reed. And, you know, I want to give a little applause to Apollo before he gets up, because like we said last week, this was his first week back at work, full week back after a long time with Achilles injury. So I want to give an applause to Apollo. But I also want to give an applause to Apollo's wife, because everyone knows that a good man has to have a good lady, because without it, it's kind of an imperfection. And she's been holding him down for this whole time that he's been having to deal with this. So I want to give an applause to her. And she still let him rock with us late nights on Thursdays, even when he's got all this going on. So this is for Apollo's wife. Salute to her. And without further ado, my brother, Mr. Apollo Reed. What up, what up, what up?
My God, appreciate you. I'm going to play that back for my wife later. She'll love to hear that.
You should, because honestly, like, one thing that I don't think I say enough is how appreciative I am of my wife, you know, allowing me to do this, especially, you know, like, there are times that we'll do this. You'll also do Guard Up Knicks. I'll hop on the Nick of Time show, you know, so it's multiple nights that we're giving to this content game. And it's not like checks are knocking down our doors to do this. You know, it's that we love it, you know, and we enjoy it. And so them being supportive is huge, and we got to show our gratitude to them, because it's those 1 or 2 nights a week, but then you add on the 2 to 3 games every week as well, that we are fully attentive, paying attention, because we know we have to talk about it that week. Yeah. So shout out to our wives for being, you know, our anchors and being just great, you know, supports and loving us through our Nick fandom, which is sometimes pretty toxic. So shout out to wifeys. But how's your week been so far, being back at work, bro?
Man, it's been a full week. I went back Friday, was my first day back. So today is Thursday, so this makes like my 7th day, you know, officially. Well, 5th day officially working. So it was just, you know, it's a lot. It's an adjustment. I'm still getting used to. I'm trying not to overcompensate on my other foot, because now they want me there in a walking boot, so that they don't get, you know, anything on their end that they have to worry about, which I understand. So just taking it easy, you know what I mean, and you know, making it do, you know, doing what I gotta do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your hard work, man, and your contribution to making sure you get back out there for the family. So shout out to you, bro. At least it was a good week, you know, for the Knicks. Ooh. At least you didn't have to watch a bunch of like horrible no ball movement basketball. You got to see a good week of New York Knicks basketball. And we're going to talk about that real soon. But first, I want to give a shout out to those that I see in the chat immediately. We got Toon in the building. Appreciate you always being here. Shout out to my guy Fritz, the moderator of all moderators, and everyone else that's rocking with us right now. If you guys can, please hit the retweet button. Post this on your Instagram stories. If you're watching from Facebook, share it on Facebook as well. The more people we get in here, the better. Shout out to Stanley Novak. I was like, yo, you related? But it's Nowak. So appreciate you, Stanley, for being in the building as well. I got excited, bro. I was like, yo, is this like Novak's brother? Like, bring on Mr. Double Check. You know, let's bring him on. But let's jump into it, man. Before we bring up guests and we, you know, start talking, I'm excited because we got our whiskey guest, Phil Steger, he's actually a Timberwolves fan. So this is a great time to have him on, enjoy his whiskey, but also gloat and tease him a little bit for what we saw last night. And then my girl Christy's coming up, and she is a whiskey connoisseur, cigar connoisseur, but she's also unfortunately a Memphis Grizzly fan, and that's just the dumpster fire out there. So we're going to talk about that as well. But first, we're going to talk about our New York Knicks. And the first topic I want to talk about, Apollo, is the fact that we are on a 3-in-a-row win streak. And even more so, that's 5-0 at home. Like, we're protecting the Garden, which so many seasons we got frustrated with that. You know, like, why is it that, like, people are coming into the Garden and they're having their highlight nights on us and beating us in our hometown? But that's not what we're seeing right now. We're starting to see that it's clicking. We beat the Bulls, which was a good victory. We beat the Wizards, which was whatever, you know, it's the Wizards, but that's when we saw Karl Anthony Towns start coming into his own form and fitting into the system. And then last night, to me, against the Timberwolves, I felt like that was the best win of the season so far, because all of our guys were healthy and their full roster was there, and it actually showed what our team can look like. So what were your thoughts on the win streak, and what was the thing that stood out to you most over these last 3 games?
Well, the win streak was exciting because, you know, I wanted to get, you know, Mitch back in the lineup and Deuce back in the lineup before I started to really judge what I was seeing. And they were playing the right way. They just didn't have the pieces to really make it work. You know what I'm saying? At certain times. So it was a little frustrating, but at the same time, I'm like, you know, it's early. Number one, they're still trying to learn the system, and they also don't have all their pieces. Yeah. But once they finally got all their pieces and they got the rust out of the way with that first game in Chicago, which we're not going to even act like happened. But since that second game in Chicago, I think that's what's really started the ball. Once they got that win there, and then of course once they went into Washington, I don't know what Cat saw, but it was just food. He was eating all game. But yeah, man, I think that's the main thing that stood out to me throughout this winning streak is Karl Anthony Towns. He's been absolutely on a tear, and if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't be winning a lot of these games because he's affecting the game on both sides of the floor. So you know, that's just what stands out. If this is the Cat we're gonna get all season, that's really a really good sign and a good start.
And honestly, man, I was floored in that Chicago series. I mean, like, the first game was a little bit disappointing, but in that second game we started to come into ourselves. But that game against the Wizards, I was seriously like wiping my eyes, like trying to get sleep out of my eyes. Like, what am I seeing? Because there were moments where Cat looked Shaq Orlando Magic like just dominant. And what has been our biggest, hang up with Karl Anthony Towns last season and the first few games of this season was that so many people called him soft, because it was like, what are you so big for if you're not going to use that? Like, we used to, when I was in elementary school and middle school, we used to call those big for nothings, like people that were big that weren't going to do nothing. You could talk trash to them. They weren't going to do anything. And that's what it seemed like Cat was at times, was a big for nothing. And you were like, yo, what is going on? But in that game, he proved what he could actually do, with his strength and with, his power. And what was great is that we didn't just see it there and then it disappear. We saw it again in the game against the Timberwolves, and that was my thing. After that game where he pretty much ate Alex Sarr's lunch, I even said in like my short, I was like, I seriously felt like that was Debo and Red, and he was just stealing his chain and his bike all night long. And so that's what it felt like. But I said, but what is he going to do against the elite bigs in the league? And then who do we play? One of the elite bigs in the league that's known for his defense in Rudy Gobert. And he didn't shrink back. He went straight at them and was dominant. Yeah. And so shout out to Karl Anthony Towns, because that's what we need to see. Before I go to my next point, shout out to my guy, Prezi the Boss. He said double trouble. Shout out to my guys, the Whiskey God Phil, aka All Caps. Apollo Reed, Hulk, smash that like button and let these subs run up to 10K. Yeah, guys, if you're watching right now, that's what I'm trying to do right now is get this channel to a push. I want to push this to, we're at about 8,900 right now. I want to push it to 9,000 in the next week or two. And then after that, I want to get it up to, dang, my camera's crazy. And then I want to get it up to the 10K as soon as we can. So any support, any appreciation for what everybody on this channel does, we would seriously thank you guys so much for that. Let's keep on going. I'm going to drop my volume a little bit. Got some news that I'm peaking. So I talk too loud.
That's
like
a lot better. It's a lot better.
Straight Puerto Rican, big, like we seriously...
And you're from New York, it doesn't help, man.
I know it's a horrible combination, and my family has to deal with the consequences. We actually soundproofed this room today, our bedroom / my studio, and even then, my wife's like, "Yo, why is it that soundproofing still can't calm you down?" And I'm like, "I don't know, like I can't figure it out." But it is what it is. So I just fixed that right there. Shout out to my guy, Nostalgic Nick. Appreciate you always being in the building. He says, shout out to Kat, and I agree about that. So let's talk about this. I put out a reel, and I want your thoughts on it. We talked about this last year, and I even talked about it the year before when we were first starting the show. Mm-hmm. Assists have been the key to the New York Knicks winning games.
Yeah.
Like, it just is. Last year, we went 24-4 when we had 30 or more assists. So I kept saying, if we want to be contenders for a chip, we need 30 assists a game. 30 assists a game. And I said that when it was like, 2 seasons ago, people were like, yo, that's crazy. 30 assists, that's not going to be the Knicks. Every time the Knicks do it, though, we are at an 86% win rate, and that was last year. And now this season, we've had 3 games where we had 30 or more assists, including last night, and we've won those games. Last night clearly won that game. And people are like, yeah, we can win without that many assists, though. Yes, we can. The first 2 wins of this season, we didn't have that many assists. Yep. But we still had more assists than Boston and Cleveland in those first 2 games. The 3 games that we've lost this season, we've had less assists than our opponent. So to me, that's the key to winning the chip. What's your thoughts on assists and what is needed for us to keep that going throughout the season?
Well, like we were talking about it earlier, man. I think we're averaging somewhere around 27 assists per game throughout the streak. So this year so far, and that's you've been saying it since last year. 30 assists a game, it should be your target. And that's kind of what the target is. And that's kind of where they're hovering around at this point. And this is really, really early in the season.
Yeah.
Of course, early. I think the first couple games there weren't as many, obviously, because the guys are just getting used to the system. But now the ball is just flying around. These guys are just getting touches. Guys are still getting the same amount of shots that they were getting last year, but everyone's getting more, getting more touches somehow. It's kind of crazy how the system has really made a change. But yeah, man, I think that's the key to it is just ball movement. Clyde says it all the time. The ball moves faster than anybody on the court. So you got to move the ball. And that's the only way you're really going to win a game.
Yeah. And what's crazy is so many people weren't buying into this idea of Mike Brown's new system because of the style of play of Kat and Jalen. And in my opinion, Jalen started buying in immediately, whether he emotionally had bought in or not. His play, he was buying in. And now that Kat is buying in, they both look 10 times better. The shots are not forced. Kat has not had to chuck up threes the last 2 games. His threes have looked good. He's been dominant in the paint. Why? Because they know that our guys are willing to actually pass the ball. They didn't believe in that last year. There was so many times that 2 or 3 guys would guard Jalen the whole possession because they didn't think that he was going to pass it, And so now that both of those guys are willing to spray it out, it's not just making them better, it's making our whole team better. Because last year you would have the games where Cat stacked numbers or Jalen stacked numbers, but we would still lose. And the rest of our guys looked like trash. But now they're stacking numbers, and yet Josh Hart is stacking numbers. Mikal Bridges is stacking numbers. Josh Hart is stacking numbers. Everybody is cooking. Jordan Clarkson's coming in some games and bringing in 15 points in 16 minutes. Like that only happens from a selfless basketball, and it makes the ISO plays that much better. Like so many times, Brunson's ISOs cost him so much like contact and physical like abuse going into the lane. Now he's barely getting contact because they know that he will pass it. They know that they have to guard the other team members. So the excuse of there's no one to pass it to, those days are gone. Like the days of guys only chilling on the 3-point line because Tibbs told them to do that, like to be 3-point corner ponies, those days are gone. And I'm loving how it looks under this Mike Brown system. And a lot of people were critiquing it after 1 or 2 games, saying, oh, we'll never be paced, we'll never do this, we'll never be selfless. But now it's starting to look like, from what I call chaos to chemistry, like the system is starting to click. So what do you think of our team and what it's starting to look like under this Mike Brown system?
So I got a graphic here that I didn't get to send it to you, so I'll just say it. Shout out to, I got it from @NBA_New York. It's one of the dopest New York basketball pages you're gonna find. So 2021 we were third in the NBA, 23rd in the NBA in passes per game. 2022, I'm just gonna do 2021 with 23rd. 2021 and 2022 we were 20th. 2022, 2023, we were 22nd. Now, 2023 and 2024, we jumped to 14th. And then in 2024, 2025, we dropped back to 18th. I think that was after we traded Julius and
Dante.
But this year, so far, we are 5th in the NBA in passes per game. We've jumped from it. We're not even in the teens at all. We're 5th. And that was before last night's game. So to me, what I'm seeing with this offense is it's allowing everyone to feel, first of all, once the ball is moving and everyone's getting the touch, you don't really get a chance to relax and just feel like you're not going to get the ball, because you know that there's a system involved. Everyone has to be ready. There's going to be ball movements. So like you said, the days of guys just standing in the corner are gone. These guys are not just going to stand there and watch the ball get dribbled out. Now, every now and then, guys get into their old habits die hard, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they still have a system that they're starting to feed into a little bit more and more every single game. So to me, I think, a lot of the people who were against it at first, of course, it's easy to say, oh yeah, you guys let's go get Tibbs back. And it's like, listen, you gave him 4 or 5 games. You know what I mean? We didn't even have a full roster. Everybody was still out and injured and stuff like that. Cat was dealing with the quad. So now that guys are starting to get it together and you're starting to see this is the team, I would still like to see some guys get going a little bit more. You know what I mean? Yabusele specifically. It's a little bit of a struggle for him to adapt to the system, which I understand. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna give him time. I'm gonna give him grace because we're still playing well. So other than that, man, I think this team is onto something really, really good, and it starts with ball movement for sure.
It's hard for me, man, because I so want Yabu to work. Like I really, really do, and it's been a struggle for him so far. It just has. We'd be lying if we said that it wasn't. He looks slow. He looks like he's having a hard time figuring out when to shoot, when to pass. He looks out of shape. Let's just be real. Like if we can call Zion, big but out of shape, for as long as we did, we got to say the same thing with Yabu. It's a pace offense, and it always looks like the team's ready to go back the other way before he gets down that way. It's like, it's like they're lapping each other back and forth. And so that's a little bit hard to watch right now. And I'm really hoping that he clicks and fits into the system, because that's the one thing we really need. We need a backup power forward in this, rotation. And we need it to be fast. And that's the hard thing for him, And so it's one of those, like, this is where it's hard to know that we were making moves without a coach to know what our new system was going to be, because we kind of just got pieces and then hoped that they were going to work within whatever that new coach did. Luckily for us, the Clarkson and Shamit signings definitely work with the fast pace, move the ball around, get your shot when you can, spray it out. But so far, the fast-paced thing has not worked with Yabu, and I'm hoping that that changes. Let me give a few shout-outs to those that are in the chat right now. We got Cody in here. He said, Yabu going to work. He's got time, and the effort is absolutely there. Lose them pounds. Yeah, I agree. You know, like, I like the effort. He wants to be there. Like, he's the one guy that every single day that there's a game, he's posting on his own Instagram, on his own, like, Twitter, all that stuff about, you know, the game. And, you know, he's committed. And that's what I like to see. We just need to be more than committed. We need to actually see it actually work on the court. Shout out to our guy, Jay Ellis. What up, what up? He said a supportive woman is invaluable. Facts. And he says, shout out to the Unicorns. Salute Phil and Apollo. Appreciate you so much. My guy right here, Mr. New York Knicks fitness community himself. Ally, casual thoughts on New York sports. Appreciate you. Reposted the stream. Thank you, bro. He saw cat food. Yabu Miller. Come on, Prezi. Be a little gentle. All right. So anyway, before we go to the next topic, I do want to stop and ask everybody that's in the chat, please lift up in your prayers my girl E. She has been part of the Knicks community for years, and she is in a battle with cancer. And her husband posted recently that, you know, things are really, really hard and it's not going the way that they had expected or hoped for. And he doesn't know how to, like, deal with it and move forward with all that. So if we could please be praying for E and Jesus, like, just lift them up while you think about it tonight. I love those two. They are die hard Knicks fans, and they mean so much to this community. So shout out to them. Much love, much prayers to you guys. We got a few more quick topics before we bring up my guy, Phil Steger of Brother Justus, and we talk about his incredible brand and his horrible choice in basketball teams. But before I do, I want to give a huge thank you, and I'm going to play this video as my thank you. But when we create this content thing, there's very little return on the investment. Like, some channels will eventually get to a point, and this is what we're hoping and believing for, where this puts food on the plate. But that's not always the case. And so when you actually get brands that believe and rock with you, that is such a huge thing, and you're thankful for that. So I want to give a huge shout out to one brand that I've loved for a long time, New York or Nowhere, and thank them so much for believing in my content, seeing my stuff on YouTube and on Instagram, and wanting to promote it and share it, and also send me a bunch of their gear from their new Knicks drop to be able to highlight on the show, like this sweater right here. And so I created this video just showcasing them.
Okay, time to run it up and then flow it back to the team. They been talking crazy, but they keep talking to me. And yeah, I got the light and I'm handing out smoke for free. We gon' run it back, we got all these wins on repeat. Team is on my back, that's why I'm pledging allegiance. No, we gon' be crazy, but please don't give us a reason. You like it, do y'all too crazy. Worry about the beats, cause they know they can't teach this. We gon' run it back, cause it ain't too easy. Game on lock, we the ones with the keys. Gas dog, yeah, the team on deep. When you getting wins, better watch how they treat you. They ain't make me, y'all can't change me, that's on God. We about to go crazy.
You're talented, bro. You're muted. You're muted.
Rookie mistake. I said, appreciate you, bro, especially coming from you, because a lot of people that are on this channel don't know. But this guy right here, Mr. Apollo Reed, he is actually a dope MC. And if you don't know his music, you need to. Matter of fact, that brings me back to like me and him talking last year about putting out a project, and we still haven't even wrote one song, but
Not
it
one.
will happen. I'm dropping pre-news right here. There's a dope brand that you'll be seeing me and Apollo rocking very soon. Right here by the name of Mathematic Athletics. And they create these freaking dope jerseys that represent each person's area of their city. So Nick color, old school looking Mitchell and Ness style jerseys and shorts representing your hood. So if you're from Bed-Stuy, from Brooklyn, from Harlem, from Rucker Park, wherever, you can get jerseys with that on the front representing your New York Knicks. So I just put the link for New York or Nowhere in the chat. Please support them. But with what I was talking about with Mathematic Athletics is we're actually going to be working on a New York Knicks fan cipher with the best MCs from the New York Knicks community. And so Apollo and I will be on that track, along with my good friend Sky Zoo will be on it representing as well. And then we'll be recording a music video for that sometime this year. So shout out to those guys. Let's talk real quick, last few moments before we bring up our guests. We're going to talk about this. What are these? These are pretty cool. Look at that.
I need those.
That's me and Apollo on a sticker. All right. A little Swishin and Sippin. Shout out to Clyde, Walt Frazier. And then we got these little logo stickers as well. These both will be coming to you this week, Apollo. Got a gift bag for you on the way. So I'm excited about that. But let's talk about last night's standout performance. And for you, you said it was this man right here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mitchell Robinson. 8 points, 10 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, 80% field goal. Honestly, that's just great numbers, but it does not show what Mitchell Robinson really does. Like this is an Ebb conversation because she's been like diehard Mitchell Robinson fan for years. But tell me what you thought about Mitchell Robinson's performance and why those numbers don't do it justice.
Man, it's he's one of those guys where you have to watch the game to see his just how much he affects the game. You know what I mean? Just being able to grab offensive rebounds. It's one of the offensive rebounds was real early, I think, to beat the first quarter buzzer beater, or was it half? It's the second quarter? One of the first. It was some in the first half. Jalen Brunson shoots an air ball from 3, and Mitch was able to grab and go right back up. He had 9 offensive rebounds himself last night. Just by himself. That is 9 extra chances just from him that allowed us to get more buckets. It's just, to me, I think he is very, very underrated because people look at his numbers and how much he can do offensively. Yes, of course, we would love for him to be Joel Embiid, right? Like everybody would like their center to be Jokic, or you know what I mean? But that's not what Mitchell Robinson is, but he is really, really good at what he does, which is something that those 2 guys that I just named can't do. So I really want people to just have a little bit more patience with Mitch. I know it's frustrating to deal with the injuries and the load management and the games off here or there. I would rather see him at full strength in the playoffs because we saw last year how important he was for us in the playoffs. So me personally, I think just watching him on the floor, you get to see more of his effect on the game. And he only played 16 minutes last night. That's another stat that's not up there.
Yeah.
People look at all of that and they're like, oh yeah, that's all he did. He only played 16 minutes last night and he had 9 offensive rebounds in those 16 minutes. So imagine if this guy can at some point put together 25, maybe even 30 minute games, which we might not even need him to play just by the way that he's running these lineups. A lot of these guys are not running a lot of minutes. They don't need to. He's running an extended lineup. So yeah, man, if we could get this guy to at around 20 to 25 minutes, he's going to be really, really dangerous for this team. And he has to be a part of this team in order for us to win. I'm sorry, guys. Like he's that important for us.
Yeah. And, I'm going to give it to Mitch because even though he wasn't my player of the game, he honestly was a crucial part of this game. Yeah. And I will say this because I think that a lot of people's concerns, including mine with Mitch, besides the health, was not so much Mitch as it was the system, and as much as it was Tom Thibodeau, and how he utilized Mitch. Like, he loved Mitch as a defensive anchor, but he really only wanted him as that. Like, even a lot of times on the offensive end, you had him away from the paint, so he wasn't getting a ton of offensive rebounds because he was just supposed to make way for either the Julius Randles or the Cats or the Brunsons to be able to drive. Like, he was just supposed to be a distraction. And if you look at it, because the ISO was so heavy before in the Tibbs era, his pick and rolls weren't that impressive. They were kind of sloppy. Like, it looked really weird. Like, people were already like off of him before Jalen Brunson could even utilize the pick. But now his picks look more powerful. Like, they look more intentional. Like, things make sense. Like, there was one that Lee posted yesterday that it was a drawn up play where both Clarkson and Mitch were setting separate picks at the same time. And then when Clarkson went off of his guy from the pick, then Mitch stood back out and picked that guy one more time. So it was like a double pick play between Clarkson, Mitch, and the ball handler. And so this system makes Mitch so much more valuable.
Yeah,
because he grabs those rebounds, but now he's also got the actual assertiveness to believe that he has a point and a place in this offense. We heard under Tibbs that he felt like he didn't have any offensive, identity at all with the team. And everyone was like, you're only there to grab rebounds. Just shut up and do it. But now he has the rebounds, but he also has an offensive identity, and he's grabbing the ball and he's putting it back up, and he's doing it with dominance. And so his defense also, how many times did people come into the lane, see him, and have to alter their shot? Like, that causes such problems, especially when you already have Mikal Bridges and OG out there. You have to dodge all of these guys and then hope that you still have enough steam to get past Mitchell Robinson. It's just not going to happen. So shout out to Mitchie. It always reminds me of that like Dazed and Confused like scene where they're outside and they're like calling Mitch. They're like, Mitchie. And they want to like, give him a beating, but whatever. So my player of the game is a little bit different. And this guy too has gotten his fair share of being, abused by the Knicks fan base, because let's be honest, that's what we do as the Knicks fan base. We beat up our players. But shout out to this guy right here, Josh Hart. Josh Hart was my player of the game. The reason, we all know he's going to rebound. We all know he's going to hustle. But the assertiveness and confidence he had to shoot the three last night was insane. Like, especially when you're playing against a team that is pretty good defensively. It's not like we were going up against, the Brooklyn Nets or someone like that, And so he had 18 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 58.3% from field goal, and 80% from three. He started off very rough in the start of the season, but he's starting to come into his own. And if these guys are contributing these kind of numbers, that makes it easier for Cat, that makes it easier for Jalen, and everybody else is able to eat when you have guys like Josh that are actually willing to take that shot. Because you got to remember, the playoff series where Jalen Brunson ended up forcing up a shot because the only person that was open was Josh Hart from three, and he nor Josh had confidence that Josh was going to shoot or make that three-pointer. And it ended up costing us the game. So what were your thoughts on Josh Hart's performance last night?
I mean, he gets it, man. And, that's, I say it all the time. It's my favorite Nick, is no matter how good or bad he plays, he just embodies the kind of guy every championship team needs. You know what I mean? He's the ultimate hustle glue guy. And he's starting to get it. He's starting to get it. And that's kind of what my issue was. Every time we talked about Josh, I was like, listen, I love Josh, but if he's not going to shoot the ball, then he's a liability. And that's just what it is. I don't care if you believe you're going to miss the shot. Like, we don't want you just standing there looking at somebody else when you're wide open at the 3-point line.
Yeah, facts.
I need you to take that. If the defense sees that you're hesitating, that's exactly what they want you to do. And that's it. Because even if you hesitate and then shoot, you're most likely going to miss at that point. So now he's not hesitating. He's getting it, and he's pulling up right away. He was 4 for 5 last night from the 3-point line. It's just, now, do I expect him to shoot like that every night? No, absolutely not. But I think this system enables him to be more ready for that shot. I think last year he didn't know when he was going to get a shot because a lot of the times it was ISO ball and he got the ball when there wasn't a shot for anybody else. So at this point, now it's like, oh, I know I'm going to get the ball at some point because there's a system. If somebody sees me open, I have to take the shot. And I think that's what Mike Brown has been drilling. Listen, if you are open and you get the ball, you will shoot that damn ball. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's what you have to do. And that's what Josh Hart is starting to get. And if he can honestly keep this up, even if he's not shooting 4 for 5 from 3 every game, of course, that's not even Jalen can't do that. Cat really can't do that every single game. Give me the effort, the same intensity. You might shoot 1 for 7 one game. I don't care. You're going to get those shots regardless of where you make them or not. So I'm proud of Josh. Hopefully he keeps it up.
Yeah. Shout out to the chat. Right here, Cody said, I'm giving the game ball to Coach Mike Brown. Yeah, he played that one well. What I love about Mike Brown right now is he took full authority over the fact that that last loss came at him not really having an understanding of what he was doing with the rotations. And he was like, there were some rotations I never should have put out there, never should have kept out there for that long. And he said, I too am learning. And he is. And I appreciate that, being able to say, hey, not everything's perfect this early in our, new formula, but we're working at it. And Jalen even said in an interview, he's like, listen, it's going to take time, but at the end of the day, if Mike says it, we're going to do it, so I love that. I love right here. He said, I'm just going to share this. Stanley said, I would like to trade Deuce, Shamet, and Pacome for Devo this year. It solves the need for both teams. Listen, bro.
No, sir. Big X.
See, me and you are going to disagree here, my guy, because
I'm not getting Deuce, not moving him, bro. I'm not moving Deuce. I'm sorry. I get it. I get why. I get it. But Dante is not bringing you what Deuce brings you on both ends of the floor.
Man, I don't know, man. Devo, if he was a bust on defense, okay. But even last night, he made our players struggle with his defense. And here's my thing. I love Deuce. Huge Deuce fan. Mm-hmm. But every time I see Dante DiVincenzo, it bothers me because I don't think he should ever have been wearing those ugly Timberwolves jersey.
No, it's like he'll be back. He'll be back. Listen, I want Dante, but I also want Deuce on his team. Like everybody else that you said in that trade, if we can figure out a way to get Dante without having to get Deuce up, I think it's perfect because I just think Deuce fits a lot of lineups. Yeah, that Mike Brown rolls out there, and especially next to Brunson and a lot of defensively at the point he was guarding Anthony Edwards really, really well last night.
Yeah, he was, and that's the hard thing. Maybe, let's switch Deuce and throw in Yabu. Yabu can go. Yabu can go. Whatever. But him and Randall can just complain about New York together. No. Shout out to Yabu. I like Yabu. I want to see Yabu come into his own. But Dante's one of those players that him and Grimes have been hard for me to watch elsewhere. Yeah. Those are two that I feel like the organization really fumbled the ball with. I think with Devo, I think they definitely want to plan to get him back in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. You see the camaraderie and just the just loyalty to each other that him, Jalen, Josh, Mikhail all have, even when they're about to play against each other. But yeah, we'll see what happens. So let's move on, and we'll come back to this topic in a second, because right now we're going to actually talk a little bit more about the game. This is going to be a little bit different, So this episode, unlike the others, is we typically, crack 1 or 2 bottles. We talk about the tasting notes and stuff like this while we talk ball. This one's a little different because we got 3 bottles from this amazing brand called Brother Justus. And we're going to do what's called flight night, which while we're talking with Phil and while we're talking with Christy, we're going to just enjoy those sips. We're going to enjoy those sips. And then at the end of the time, we're going to talk about which was our favorite and why. And so I'm really looking forward to this because I couldn't wait, and I cracked them last night just because I'm impatient and didn't want to wait till today. But this right here is flight night. This is what we're doing tonight. We're going to taste them all. And it's also a little bit different because it's also enemy territory at the same time, because he comes from, a fan base that, we just put the whooping on. And then Christy, when she comes up, we're going to put the whooping on them next week because she's a Grizzlies fan. So, we got two people from rival fan bases. We got this little Brother Justus logo right here. All right. We got this little whiskey and cigar chick logo right here. All right. And now we're going to talk basketball. So for you guys that have never heard of Brother Justus, we're bringing up Phil Steger. He's the founder and CEO. And I'll let him kind of give his background because I always love hearing their actual story instead of like just reading something that could have came like with the bottle in like a piece of paper. But what I do know is that from tasting their whiskey and seeing what they do, they innovate. And that's one thing us New Yorkers love is innovation. Like we love to innovate. We love to take what's there and put our own spin on it. We love to march to the beat of our own drum. Like that's what we do as New Yorkers. And so first, they're from Minnesota. Like, I don't know about you guys. I don't think Minnesota and then think whiskey. So that alone is innovation. Like they're bringing something different and they're carving their own lane. And so I tried these 3 bottles and they were incredible. And I'm excited to talk about them. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Phil Steger.
Hey, what's up, Phil? What's up, Apollo?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, first off, thank you for the welcome. I'm not gonna try to defend the garbage that my team put on the court in the second half last night. I want to give proper respect to the Knicks. You guys had a good game. The team looks formidable. I got 4 things to say. You got an ice cold killer point guard, footwork better than the Dread Pirate Roberts. You got Cat, who is finally becoming the court tilting earth mover his name suggests. We should be thinking about the little pussy cats. We should be thinking about caterpillar earth movers when that guy goes up for a jam, when he's just cold elbowing people halfway across the court on his way.
Yep.
That's what we always believed he could do.
Yep.
You know what? We all love Cat in Minnesota. We will always love Cat in Minnesota. And I'm excited to see what Mike Brown is doing with him. And you're gonna unlock a dangerous man in that guy. And then third thing, oh my, that guy can move. And then finally, Mitchell be robbing these sons of rebounds. What is going on? Like I watched in the nail in the coffin at 3:52 in the fourth quarter. Clark, this little guy, young guy, going out, he guarded Jalen all the way. It was like 12, 15 seconds on Jalen. Forced from the midcourt, forced him off to the baseline, put up a bad shot. I saw Jalen look up. Man, Mitchell just he put one elbow on Randall, the other on Nas, grabbed that board, and Jalen's head went down. Game was over. I gotta give respect to the Knicks. You guys were great last night.
Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you for real. Like it's cool because like rarely do you ever like have someone on your show from the fan base that one of your best players just came from, and like kind of talk and see what you guys are seeing, and that's why I've wanted to do this enemy territory in every segment. People are like, yeah, but you could use more of that time to talk Knicks. And I'm like, yeah, but what we're saying is the same as like a lot of other Knicks fans. I want to know what the rest of the league sees when they see the Knicks, and, some of the guys that we've had up, they wanted to test the Knicks and say that the Knicks were going to be nothing. And I wagered some whiskey and, they've all lost so far this season to me, which has been great because my whiskey collection's growing at the hands of whiskey influencers. But I love the fact that you came up humbly and, you're able to see because Cat does look different, like when he played the way that he played these last 2 games, he looks like the guy that we've always wanted him to be. And I think, and I want your opinion on this, I think him developing a 3-point shot kind of gave him the crutch to not be the tough guy that he needed to be a lot of places. And when you guys got Rudy and partnered him with Rudy, you guys excused that lack of aggression. that lack of bully ball because you were like, well, at least we have a tough defender and someone that's going to hold his own offensively in the paint while Cat doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But what I saw last, and so I'm going to say 100%. Like Rudy took the pressure off Cat. He's strong, man. Like this guy is stronger, faster, more agile, better touch than everybody but, 4 guys on the court at any one time. But that's not his natural inclination. He's a finesse player. He's a finesse player in a wrecking ball body. And so what I saw last night was not just the 3-pointer. It's running the offense through Cat. The number of dishes that he was doing last night, that was the difference. Like, he had a couple spectacular jams over Rudy, over Ant, over Julius. Like he had some statement jams, but you're going to get those. Like a guy that big, he gets positioning. There's not much you can do. What I was excited about last night was seeing his basketball intelligence, right? His understanding, the defender's coming this way, so I'm going to dish down, or I'm going to do an over the head, right? Like, or behind the back. Like, that's what I saw unlock last night. That really makes me fear Cat going forward, and what you guys I think should be really excited about.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Apollo?
I think, and that's kind of what I was going to ask is, because so I was watching, I'm telling anybody, I was watching on a Minnesota stream. So I was watching the game and I was listening. Right? I was listening to their broadcast, and it's weird listening to someone else talk about your team positively when they're playing. And, so first of all, credit to those guys because they were really talking really good basketball. It wasn't biased. They were talking good basketball. So it was a pleasure to listen to, unlike a lot of other teams that I'm forced to watch sometimes. Broadcasts I'm forced to watch. But they were kind of excited to see the growth in Cat and the things that he's starting to do that he wasn't doing there, that they wanted to see him do. So it's to see him finally, like I said, feed into what he's doing and get into the post, because like watching the game versus Milwaukee when what's his name, Kyle Kuzma had him on the perimeter and he couldn't back him down. I'm like, something's up. Like, what is going on here? You're stronger than Kyle Kuzma, bro. You're
that's
bigger.
Not how he plays. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like that's the key, and that's what I think Mike Brown sees. He's not Julius, right? He's Cat. He's not a 1-to-1 in your grill. Right. I'm going to outwill you. I'm going to outpower you. That's just not his temperament. And when you work with his temperament, which is a sensitive person, and I don't think being sensitive is bad. He's reading things. Like he cares a lot, right? So if that's what you do, but if you give him a lane, if you get him moving, right, in the direction, if he's got that momentum going and you give him the ball in the right place or he sees the opportunity, then there's 2-3 guys that can stop him that are strong enough to stop him.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. So that's what I feel like Mike Brown is really unlocked, and you can see it. And the other thing about Cat, he's not the quickest processor. You know what I mean? He's a game management big. He's not a on the fly, be creative. Like you force him into a situation where he's got to make a split second judgment about what he's supposed to do. You're going to get the silly fouls. You're going to get being out of position. Don't play to that. Like, I know you want him to be that because you feel like he could be that.
Right.
Don't do that. That's just not his game. But when you've got Mitchell Robinson, when you've got OG, and when you've got especially the brain of Jalen Brunson running that offense and understanding how the position, you got Hart running around, you got McBride off the bench. Like you have so many players that he can understand how to use in the way that that goes to his strength. Sorry, I don't mean to take it over.
No. I love it. I love
Cat in Minnesota. There is not a human being in Minnesota that wishes Cat any ill.
Wow.
And I understand the Knicks fan base is not something I would ever want to be subject to, so be easy on me tonight. But you give that guy, you let him be Cat and don't try to fit him into what you think a guy that big and that strong should be. And he's going to blow doors. Like he's going to do it. And I think we saw a glimpse of that last night.
When you say he's a finesse player, and that we're going to bring Christie up right after this point, when you say he's a finesse player, I think so many times people don't realize how that can still be powerful and, have a dominance to it, because some of the best bigs were finesse players. You look at Hakeem Olajuwon, he wasn't built like Shaquille O'Neal. He wasn't dunking on everybody every single play, but he was a nightmare to guard in the paint because he can dunk on you, he can hit you with the hook, he can do a fade midi, like he had so many things that were finesse moves, but they were dominant finesse moves. And same thing with Dirk, like when you get Dirk, you're not looking at Dirk Nowitzki and going, oh, Tim Duncan style basketball. Like, no, he wasn't doing that, but he had power when he was in the paint and finesse. Power and finesse can work together. And I feel like for too long, those two things have been separated by the coaching of Karl Anthony Towns. It's been, let's focus on your finesse or let's focus on your power. And neither coach has focused on both. And I think in these last few games, we've seen that he can be both. So let the player do what he can actually do.
That's why
and
he was the worst coach for Cat in Minnesota and in New York, right? Like he didn't understand that Karl is strongest when he's using leverage. That's the finesse part, right? When you're just body against body, that's not his game. But you give him a little angle, like you saw it all game last night. Like he was just dunking over dudes, not because he was straight on, but because he found just a little angle, and no one could do anything about it.
Yeah,
because he's long, he can go right around you. He fits into certain spaces that other centers just can't do. That's
a great way to say it. Yeah, he fits into spaces other centers can't. That's beautiful. That's perfect.
Yeah.
All right, Phil. So we're gonna have you talk in a second, but we're gonna bring up another enemy. We haven't done this yet. We haven't allowed multiple, shots to be fired from multiple teams at one time. But I, have been a fan of what some of the women in the whiskey space have been doing. And I feel like their voices are so important and so powerful. And then when you add a cigar into it, and then you're going to actually talk ball, it's just like, all right, how do you not highlight somebody like this? So I want to bring up Christy. And she, unfortunately, is a Grizzly fan. So I said she likes, basketball and talks ball. I didn't say she liked good teams, but, sometimes we don't pick our poison. So I want to encourage everybody that's in the chat right now to do yourself a favor, grab a drink, because we're going to bring Christy up. Phil is going to give us a little bit of history on Brother Justus, and then we're going to keep on talking ball. So once again, this is enemy territory, and it's multiple enemies this time, which is crazy. But I'm gonna play this right here, and then we'll go.
Hey, if you're not with me, then you're my enemy. Hey, if you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
So without further ado, let's bring up Christy and give her flowers and a round of applause.
Thank you. Hello.
How you doing?
I can't complain. I mean, you've been mentioning some of my favorite things. So whiskey, cigars, and sports. That's as good as it gets on a Wednesday or Thursday. I don't even know what day it is. Whatever today is, I'm happy.
I love it. All right. So like I said, we're going to do things a little bit different this episode. And you guys, let's grab this one first and get a little pour. All right. This right here is the American single malt. And Phil, is this the one that doesn't have an age statement?
Yeah, this doesn't have an age statement. What we do with our whiskeys is, this one is actually aged about less than 3 years. There is an age statement on it. So it is barrel aged. But our approach to American single malt is really different than what you're going to see in the market, either on the American whiskey side or the Scotch side. What I look for is, the basics of whiskey. It's like breaking basketball down to the basics. It's spacing, it's movement, it's structure, right? It's like, what are you working with? How are you spacing them on the floor? And then how are you moving them to create advantage? And so what I do with whiskey is at its essence distilled beer. It's beer rain. That's what you're doing. You're making a beer, you're turning into a cloud, you're cooling the cloud off, you're collecting the drops. And so my approach to whiskey is make the most flavorful beer and then collect the most flavorful drops. And so if you do that, then age statement is secondary, because it's all about how the distillate, like the quality and the flavor of the distillate that you're putting into the barrel, is interacting with the barrel to create the coherent flavors that you want at the end. So that's what we have with the American single malt, which really shows this off. We're not trying to be Scotch in America. We're using single malt Scotch technique and ingredients transformed through innovation in order to produce truly American flavors. So that's what we've got right here.
I love it. I love it. So give a little, like, as we enjoy this and as we try it, if you can give just a little bit of like a little breakdown of what exactly, you know, like where you guys got your start, how long you've been in the whiskey game. And for our viewers, we are going to talk more ball. We're just going to hear his history. We're going to have this sip, and then we're going to hear each other's opinions. And Apollo, I'll tell you this, for you guys that don't know, Apollo's on his whiskey journey. All right. When we first started this show about 2.5 seasons ago, Captain and Coke was what he knew. And so I wanted the show to be his exploration of whiskey. And like, we started with how to sip it, how to get different tasting notes from the smell and everything like that. And at first he was like, I don't know what this like wizardry like Phil's doing. I don't know if I actually taste these things or if he's just saying it. And now I taste them because he said it. And then 2.5, years into this, and he's on with Dixon Dedman talking about what he's tasting, and Dixon's been like, yeah, bro, you got it, So I will say this, Apollo, we've never had a flight night, so do about 1 ounce pours, like your homie, Toon said. You got work in the morning, bro. Like you ain't there yet, so don't be doing those 2-3 ounce pours. All right. So, all right, Phil, let's hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I came to whiskey from a different place than a lot of people. My job before, when I had the vision to start Brother Justus, I was actually working for, this is true, Benedictine monks, and I was rescuing medieval manuscripts in monasteries in remote Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, Ukraine, India. I was in places that were threatened by war, and I was working on digitizing their ancestral manuscripts and their history for a group of monks. And I was, the mission was successful. And we had hard drives upon hard drives. My job was to figure out how to get the equipment in, get the teams organized, keep it quiet so ISIS and various governments didn't find out about it, break up the project before it was finished, and then figure out how to get the hard drives out so they could be uploaded to the internet. So no matter what happened, then, to the originals, that people would be able to access the lives and the stories and the histories of these people. And that job was coming to an end. And I was thinking, where do I go from there? You know what I mean? I'm like, I get to be digital Indiana Jones. How do I go to a 9-to-5 after this? Like, how am I going to have any other job? And I was trying to think about what do I know and what did I learn from that experience about what really matters, right? I can't look into the future and know what's going to happen. Yeah. Except that the Vikings are never going to win some Super Bowl. We'll get them, but we won't always win them. And that Ant is going to be a superstar, and everything in the NBA is going to be irrelevant when Wemby finally grows into his own.
Facts.
Apart from those things, I don't know how to read the future, but what I do know is that people need something that connects them to land, to history, to culture, to story, to each other. The more real that is, the more authentic that is, the more handcrafted analog vinyl that is, the more it means and the better it feels. And so I looked around and thought, what could I do? What could I create that does something like a manuscript in terms of telling a long story that ties us all together, wherever we came from, wherever our ancestors came from, wherever our families came from, but we're here in this land, we're here in this country. How do we tell a story that we all belong to and all can feel proud of? And that's what moved me into whiskey, because I don't think there's anything like whiskey in the world of beverages or food. I definitely love a cigar and I love a pipe, and I think these are absolutely complementary things deep in culture that are all about this sort of thing. But I didn't have access to understanding how tobacco, that's a whole other incredible world. But I felt like I could create a whiskey. And so I did a bunch of deep research on understanding what the essence of this thing is. And I actually discovered the story of Brother Justus. You mentioned, I love it, Phil. By the way, I've never met a Phil who wasn't awesome. You are continuing 100%, 1,000 batting average streak of that.
And no one knows I'm also a Phil, but we're gonna keep that. Are
you for real?
Yes, I am.
I knew it. We just need to hang. When the podcast is over, we're just going to be filling together. Anyway, so I discovered this story that you mentioned, Phil, not Apollo Phil all caps. That you mentioned, you don't think of Minnesota when it comes to whiskey. And that's true. Like there isn't a shared story of Minnesota history. And yet when I dug into the records, into the history of this, it turns out in the 1920s during Prohibition, the most highly coveted whiskey in America was coming out of Minnesota. And it was called Minnesota 13. And it didn't depend on the specific distiller. It meant if any whiskey you could get your hands on that came from Minnesota, it was the best, highest quality whiskey you could get. And I was like, how did this happen? I traced it back. I found some records. I found a writer who was working on it. I started to do some oral histories, and I discovered it all traced back to a Benedictine monk, full circle. Remember, I was working with them on the manuscript, right? Named Brother Justus Treadle. And he was the Benedictine monk at St. John's Abbey at central Minnesota. He was the Abbey blacksmith and the Abbey distiller. And when Prohibition rolled around, it was the same time as the Farm Depression. Sorry for the history. I know y'all can take it.
No, I love it.
I love it.
We tell the Prohibition story, but we don't tell the real thing that was happening that was affecting the most people's lives, and that was the Farm Depression. So in states like mine, in Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, like the heartland states, people were in depression before the Great Depression. The Great Depression is called the Great Depression because everybody got to participate.
Yeah.
But before that, it was the Farm Depression. And farmers were starving on the land. They were going homeless on the land. They couldn't pay the banks back. They were getting evicted from their properties. And it was all because of the collapse of grain prices. So the reason we have the stories of moonshiners coming from the farms in rural America was not because all these church-going immigrant families that worked every day of their lives to make life better for their children suddenly become a bunch of criminals who want to, tote around Tommy guns and light everybody up. That's not the story. The real story is you have a bunch of poor people who are desperate, who are fighting poverty, who are trying to feed their families, who are trying to keep their land, who are trying to keep their whole lives together, who have nothing to do with this worthless grain except turn it into a jug of whiskey and try to sell it. So it was desperation. So what Brother Justus did that was revolutionary and innovative, right, was he looked at this and said, okay, you got to commit a felony to support your family. You got to do what you got to do, but you can't ever violate the golden rule. You can't ever do it at the expense of your neighbor. If you got to break the law, you got to break the law. But you can't ever do unto others the way you would not want them to do unto you. So you've got to make the best quality whiskey. You have to have the best, the highest quality, the cleanest cuts. So he actually used the Abbey woodworking shop, the Abbey blacksmith shop, and built a bunch of clean, perfectly made copper stills, because that's what poor people didn't have, the right equipment, and then smuggled them onto local farmers' family farms, and then ran people through Benedictine distillation boot camp and said, I'll give you this still, you can keep it, but you have to do it the right way every time, and you have to teach your neighbor what I taught you.
Wow.
And that's the story of Brother Justus.
That.
So that to me is the American hero that actually real Americans believe in. I actually don't think like we want the gangster hero. We don't want the criminal hero. We don't want the guy that's just in it for themselves. We really want the guy or the gal who's like, no, I don't care about me. I care about we.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's Brother Justus. So
it's funny that you shared that break the law quote, because when I was like actually doing background study of Brother Justus, that's the quote that stood out to me most. Because in what I was reading, it was also talking about, and me, I'm a huge marketing guy. Like I love clean looking things. I love clean, bold graphics. So like the cross and everything on there on the front with the logo, that rebrand that you guys did, I think like a year or so ago, was absolutely incredible. But for me, what really resonated with the story, because I was reading it, was I come as someone who has spent, my older teens and 20s, 30s into my 40s, as someone who became a Christian and started serving in my church and all that stuff. And when I started partaking in the whiskey community, and really, really enjoying it, not because it's an escape for me, but because I actually love the craft behind it. Like there was a lot of people that don't understand, And something that I do weekly on my Instagram is called Sips and Scripts, where I talk about what I'm currently drinking and like what I'm currently reading in my Bible, and kind of trying to tie those two things together. Did I cut out?
No.
Okay.
You're good.
And how I tie those two things together, and I post it weekly, and you get some people that don't understand, some people that do, but a lot of the ones that don't understand are actually from the church, and I've wanted to do like a weekly podcast, but I have so many friends that are believers in the whiskey community, but they work at a church and the church won't let them blatantly show that they drink whiskey. Like it has to be behind closed doors. And so when I was reading the article, I thought it was incredible because it was talking about how at that time, every town had a church and across the street had a brewery or a whiskey bar, and they would actually go from one to the other. The people from the church would go and they'd enjoy and hang out at the bar and hang out with the people in the bar. The people from the bar would leave the bar on that Saturday, go, and fellowship on that Sunday. And it wasn't a separation, it was, and honestly, I think that's where actually drinking was healthier then, because it wasn't you drink, I'm judging you, or I can't go here because I do this, So I love that whole thing. And so when I saw the branding and I read everything that you guys were doing, I was on board. Absolutely loved it.
That's amazing. And it's 100% true too, because, and it was family. Like this isn't something that you hid from your kids or you hid from your spouse. Yep. It was a part of a whole life, right? Like, and that's Ecclesiastes. Eat, drink, and find enjoyment in your toil. That's what's allotted to you.
Yep.
This is your portion. You're gonna have to work. So work. Mm-hmm. Work well. Work hard.
Yep.
Find love and enjoyment in your work, and then celebrate with and eat and drink well the fruit of your hands, the fruit of your toil.
I love that.
And
absolutely love it.
One other thing that really stood out for me in listening to you kind of tell the story and the history of the brand is the sense of community that it is rooted in. And when I think about the whiskey community now, and even the reason I became a part of this, aside from the fact that I just love how the stuff tastes, but the reason I got as deep into it, obviously, as I have, is that community. And to hear that this brand was literally started, or kind of based on, rather, the idea of somebody who recognized the power of community. Yeah. Because it would have been real easy for one person to say, I'm going to have this still and I'm going to make all of this and I'm going to sell it and that's it. Yep. But instead of going that route, it was about how do I pull others in? How can everyone kind of have a piece of this pie and enjoy what we're doing here? And that is very much what the whiskey community is like today. I mean, this is the only group that I know that I can post something and say, hey, I've been hunting for, XYZ bottle. And within 10 minutes, my inbox is flooded. I've got one. I'll send it to you, or I can send you a handshake, or, hey, I just saw it at this store. So that sense of community is still very prevalent. So I love that this brand is kind of based on, again, that his heritage of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love it. I love it.
Said, Kristen.
Mm. All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit more ball before we get into the next pour.
Okay.
All right. So Christy, all right. I love your whiskey reviews. I love your cigar recommendations. How did you slip up and become a Grizzly fan? Because it's like, there's so many things that I can support in what you're doing, but that is just not one of them.
So here's the thing. I will say, Growing up, I was not a sports person. Like we didn't really watch it a lot in the house. It wasn't my thing. But I was always highly competitive in any way that I could be. And 20 plus years ago, there was a job posted for a head of HR for the Memphis Grizzlies. It's when they were moving from Vancouver to Memphis. And I thought, oh, at that time, there were only 26 NBA teams, which to me said there are only 25 other people in the world doing this exact job. So that made me want to do it. So I threw my name in the hat. There were literally over 500 applicants, and I started working for them. I was their first U.S. hire. I was literally like employee number 8. And while I was there, we grew to over 500 people. So I became a Grizzlies fan because I was paid to do so. But I have remained a Grizzlies fan because of that community. It is so similar to Whiskey. The Grizzlies have had some phenomenal years, and we have had some tragic years. My first year there, we won 20 games, and we were just thrilled to win those 20. But the community showed up every time, no matter what. And even as you've seen the ups and downs through the years, that has remained. So I figure if everyone else is riding with it, I'm going to go ahead and stick by it too.
All right. Well, I'll say
this year is a tough year. I'm telling you, this is, and we're only like, we're only 9 games in, and it's already like, ooh, I can see how this is going to go. But
you said there were some good years, and I'll be honest. The only thing good about the Memphis Grizzlies was their old school '90s jerseys with the teal. That's the only thing y'all ever had going for y'all.
I cannot agree. I cannot agree. We had some good years.
All right, so I got to jump in here, right? I mean, I started off humble. I started off giving props and giving respect where respect is due. But now I have to draw a line. Like, and I gotta say a couple of things. Number one, the two most exciting, I'll say it, the two most exciting players to watch, in my view, in the entire NBA are not on the Knicks, they're on the Wolves and the Grizzlies. Like, and we're talking about Ja Morant and we're talking about Ant. And, and the reason for that is, Wemby is an alien who's going to absolutely change the game. Giannis, everybody snoozes on Giannis having the best season of the year of any player, any team right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Joker, he can do things nobody else can do. Shea, he's sliding around. But you want to see Ja go up. Like everybody wants to see Ja go up and make something that seems impossible possible. Same with Ant. Those are the only, and because they're normal sized guy relatively, I'm 6'4", they're 6'4", 6'5". Like, you could mistake them for normal human beings. You can't mistake Wemby. You can't mistake Joker. You can't mistake Giannis. You can't mistake any of those people for normal human. You can't mistake LeBron for a normal human being. Mm-hmm. But you can mistake John. You can mistake Ant for a normal human being until they dunk over your head.
Until they do what they do.
And here's the thing. I don't think anyone's going to deny that fact. The thing is when you look at the past, okay, there's been players like that, like the Derrick Roses, that can just surprise the heck out of you, that can change the game in the way that they play. Yet the thing is, with these guys, there is a lack of maturity as actual individuals that rob them of what they are actually talented to do.
With one of the two.
No, hold on.
I will go ahead and claim that.
Time out. If we're going to take the kid gloves off, let's take the kid gloves off, all right? Because there's also one thing that's not in New York, and that's baby mama drama. All right, and where's that happening? With Ant or with Zion? That's where that happens. And Ja Morant got issues on issues on issues every single week.
And so agree with that.
So it's like you can jump out the gym.
You want to go outside the court and sort of try to impugn the character of my guy right now. But I thought we were talking basketball, not extracurriculars.
Here's the thing for a winning team.
Besides Wemby, what player in the NBA is evolving and developing faster than Ant? Everybody, he was the go.
I would say Shea. I would say Shea. I would say Shea's the only one.
He's not evolving faster than Ant. He was
also there
into his advantages, his ability to move and dime. Nobody else has that. Like nobody else can move like Shea, except maybe Jalen. Right?
Shea's also been in the league for a lot longer than Ant, because he was on the Clippers for a while, and then he went to OKC, and then
look at what Ant is doing. Let's just talk maturity on the basketball court, because I don't want to get into anybody's personal business.
All right.
Now.
So this is what I'll say.
They asked him to be a better three-point shooter. What does he do? He comes in, he leads the leagues in overall threes made last year. Then he's like, oh, Shea did great on the mid-range jumper. So what am I going to do over the summer? I'm going to start locking in my mid-range jumper. He got a hammy, which you cannot mess with. You cannot play with a hamstring.
You just got to rest it.
Lowest injury to heal. He missed 4 games. He came in rusty last night. I respect everything you said, but I think you said something, Apollo, about somebody doing a good job guarding Ant last night.
Hey, listen, I know.
Come on, man. Let's go. Let's be real about the assignment last night.
No,
you
but
got
listen,
a guy who's nursing a hammy, and he's coming in after 4 days rusty, 4 games rusty. That's as many games as he's ever missed in his entire career. That was not.
I'll say this. When you come, when you come off that kind of break, right? It wasn't like he sat for a lot of games. So his body, it wasn't like a body thing. His body was fine. Like they said during the game, the endurance wasn't the issue. The issue was, there might be a little bit of rhythm that he has to get back into. But at the end of the day, the rhythm affects your jump shot. It doesn't affect the moves that you pull out of anywhere. And that's what he does very well. And Deuce was there for every one of those moves. You watch the film, you got to know what these guys are going to do.
Those were a little hesitant. Those were not normal Ant moves. Let's just be
no. But he wasn't Ant. He wasn't Ant. That absolutely was not Ant. He was absolutely not Ant. But he I'm
not trying to take anything away from Deuce. I'm just trying to say that was not full strength Ant last night.
He wasn't.
And that's fine. But the one thing about Deuce that you got to realize is, like, Deuce is a lot smaller, so you got to give him credit for that. He still played, to his strengths, and still made it hard on Ant. Here's the thing: is when you are that leaps and bounds better than other players, and you guys have the Ja Morants and you have the Ants, that they are leaps and bounds. Even on a bad day, they're still better than more than 80% of the NBA. So at the end of the day, if he is at 80%, Miles McBride, who is our bench, 6th, 7th man, coming in and guarding him and keeping him from doing Ant-like things, is still a huge feat.
Hey, I'm not trying to take anything against McBride or the Knicks bench, because you guys' bench is killed our bench last night. Our bench has a lot of issues. Yeah, but I mean. Do you see my?
He wasn't it.
Exactly.
You see this here?
He wasn't it.
I'm going to defend this guy, and I'm going to tell you, like, that was not Ant at full strength. And if you've ever injured a hammy, you think you're healed, but there is something in the back of your mind that worries. Mm-hmm. If I go beast mode on this, 100%. If I go
it's not going to sustain me.
I might be out for months, right?
Yeah.
So I just don't think you can look at last night and say, okay, it's just a rhythm thing. It shouldn't have been that bad. Oh, it's just this. He's better than 80% of your guys, even on the off night. This is a guy who's young, who's got a hamstring injury, who knows what that can do to you, and then went into that game tentative and was tentative the whole night. And I just think, like, I'm not trying to take. I started.
We'll see the next game.
I go with that. Let's watch.
We'll see the next game. We'll see the next game. The next game that we play against you guys, we'll judge then. We'll judge then.
All right. So, Christy, I'm gonna throw it to you.
Yes.
All right. So, Grizzly fan, because there's no denying that Ant is one of the best players out there. Like, there's no franchise that would not take a call for an Ant trade. Like, that's ridiculous. There are very few players that I'm like, all right, bank rob us, and bring him in. Ja was one of those for me, because he is incredible. But regardless of drama, whatever, like off the court, the drama within him and the franchise, themselves
It
seems to be
affects
an ongoing thing, and like recent interviews, it doesn't seem like he's got a joy and passion to even be there anymore. They even asked him and he said the joy's not there anymore. Like, what do you think is going to happen with your Grizzlies moving forward? Like, do they bank on him and Jarrett Jackson, or do they have to like realize that Jackson is also a great player? And if Ja's going to limit him regardless of how great Ja is, do you rebuild around Jackson?
I think they have a choice to make. And I think it is going to be either, because there is a world I can see where Ja and Jackson can work well and play well in the sandbox, so to speak. What I think they're going to have to decide between is it those players or is it this current coaching staff and style? Because the two do not go together, in my opinion. And what the Grizzlies have never had or haven't had consistently is all of the pieces. They either have some great coaches and lackluster players. They have a couple of great players, but the coaching staff is still in a bit of turmoil. Or they have a great, 3 or 4 players, but the bench is garbage. And they've not had all of those pieces working together in a really long time. And, oftentimes when you talk about a team being new or a team being young, rather, you're usually talking about the players. Right now, they've got some young coaches who come from a very different coaching style than what they have had and what they've likely been used to throughout their career. And they've got a few international players that I think are adjusting to it a little bit quicker. But I think, in my opinion, the real question is going to be between Ja and this current coaching team, because I just don't see them meshing well together. And once they figure that out, I think you can work the player stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we got, Phil's thoughts, as a loyal NBA fan. What are your thoughts watching the New York Knicks, currently constructed as they are with the new, coaching staff so far this season? What are your thoughts from an outsider?
I mean, I'm expecting to lose next week. I'll be honest. I'm chalking it up. I can take the L on this one. But I think y'all are going to have a good season. I really do. I think it's exciting. Y'all are really exciting to watch right now. I am not looking forward to next week's game because I know it is not going to be pretty. But it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a really good year.
Yeah. My guy Lee said Ja's best landing spots if he was to get traded are Dallas and Houston.
Why are you coming at me like that, man?
Hey, I think what he's saying is like those teams probably have players that are of that caliber that they'd be willing to move. You guys, it wouldn't be smart because they would be coming for an Ant type trade, and no one's going to do that. Like that's just ridiculous.
That doesn't make sense.
I mean,
and the truth is,
I love
Ja
Morant as a player. Sorry, Christy.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say the truth is Ja still has to grow up. Like, let's be honest. Great basketball player. Nobody's denying that. But he has to decide that he's ready to be a grown up in all ways. And until he does that, there's always the potential for him to be a liability, regardless of how great he is on the court.
And I think, I got to go and say something along the lines of, I think that comes from a franchise issue. Like if you have a player of that big of potential and you see the things that he's going through, you don't just go at it from a disciplinary act, of we need you to get this fixed and these are the things to prove your, repentance of it. Like that doesn't change somebody.
No,
that just changes the action. That's behavior modification. That's not going to make him a better person or a better player. Like the franchise, that's where you have to step back and be like, okay, what vets do we have that have experienced that kind of thing? Like who can actually pour into him on and off the court and make those changes, And so that's something I look at the organization and I go, you got to see this guy as more than your cash cow. You got to see him as more than your bucket getter. Like he's got to matter more than just stats. He's got to matter as a person. And so I see that as like a big X on the franchise there.
It is. And years ago, the Grizzlies had somebody on basketball operations. His name was Dana. We all called him Double D. That was his job. He wasn't a player, but he played in college, didn't go pro. But his whole role was literally wrapping his arms around these young players and maturing them as people. And he unfortunately passed away way too young. And there has not been anyone like him with the franchise since. There have been some great people in that role, but they did not take the same level of interest. Like Dana would literally, I was the head of HR. He would call me, look, this player doesn't have a passport. We're going to do this. I'm going to do this and da-da-da. And can you send me his mom's number? Because I need to get her on the phone because he's acting an idiot. And we got to have a three-way call to pull it together. And that's what it takes. Because you're talking about 20-year-olds that you just handed hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of dollars.
Yeah.
They don't know how to act.
Yep.
If you would have handed me that money at 20, I probably would have acted, my life would have turned out very different than what it did.
Yeah.
So the franchises that really, really care about winning, to your point, they don't just nurture their basketball skills. They pay attention to the whole person. They take care of literally that whole family because that's what it takes for them to play at their peak.
Yeah.
I think this gets to the heart of what I love about basketball and why I think it's the greatest sport on earth.
Yep.
Is if you look at all the other pro sports, everything runs through a single position. NFL, it's the quarterback. NHL and soccer, it's the goalie, right? Baseball, it's the pitcher. NBA is the only one where there is never a single position that's dominant. It is the ultimate team game until an individual, a special individual like a Dirk, right? A Steph, right? A LeBron, a Giannis,
a Tim Duncan,
a Joker comes along and changes the center of gravity of how that position is played to exploit mismatches that were there all along, but nobody ever saw, right?
Yeah.
And then the entire league has to evolve to figure out how to manage that. There's nothing like it on earth, right? And so what makes NBA so unique is that it's the ultimate team game in the sense that there's no one position more important than the other, but it's the sport that allows for the most creativity of a particular innovative individual to completely change the game. But they have to figure out how to do it in a team context, or you don't win a championship. So you can have a Ja Morant. You can have the shout out earlier from your chat about Ja going to Atlanta. You can have a Trae Young, right? You can have a LaMelo Ball, great players who don't understand how, or their coach doesn't understand how that fits into a system of complete basketball to win games, to at the end of the night have more points than the other team.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think everything you're saying about how you have to develop a player like Ja, and you have to have an old vet like Ant has had in Mike Conley, right?
Yeah.
That it matters. Ant could have gone the Ja way, like any, right? I don't want to say that specifically about Ant. I'm just saying
anyone could.
Anyone, whether that's true. I just want to be clear, right? I'm just going to say it as an example. He had a guy like Mike Conley, an old guard vet in the league, 17, 18, 19 years to help him understand, and coaches who understood, okay, we can't do a disciplinary, as you said, Phil, like you can't just like discipline these guys and say, be more this, be less that. You got to be like, hey, I know what you're going through. You got this talent. See how this opens up. See how when you do this, the defense does that, and that springs that guy. You know what I mean? Like that takes so much cultivation, but that's why to me it's the ultimate sport though. Like it's the ultimate cultivation of talent on earth.
And I agree.
David Stern would have never allowed Ja to have the issues.
No, never.
Like,
what are the problems he had with AI?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It'd have been like Gilbert Arenas. He'd have been right out of here.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so some things that you said, Phil, that I want to talk on before we go to the next pour, was the importance of figuring out and having a vet that helps the player develop on and off the court. Because that's one thing that I do love about the Knicks organization. Like if you look at every game, front row, you got Larry Johnson, you got Marcus Camby, you got John Starks, you got Allen Houston. You have those guys always there. They're always part of things. Stoudemire, they're all, Marbury these days, like they're all there and they have relationships with these younger guys, and they've shared, this is where I messed up here. Like they're able to give that wisdom on and off the court. And in the same way, like you were talking about how when that one player just relies on their skill set as like being enough, like, well, I'm a star, like that's great. It can bring numbers for you, but your team is not going anywhere. Like your organization's not going anywhere. We saw that with the Knicks, under Tibbs. You would have great Brunson numbers, you would have great Towns numbers, and then we would still lose the game, or now you look at Zion. Zion's back to being dominant, like he is bullying people, but yet they started off 0-6, so it's like, what does it matter if you're that one player, but you're not, building off of it? And that's a character thing too. So let's go into the next part, but first I'm going to ask you a question. My guy Lee asked, he said, can you ask Phil why Finch has buried Dillingham on the bench?
I love that question because, I don't know. I don't know Finch's mind, and I can only take from what I hear him say after the games and everything, and just what I see when I watch. So what I see in Dillingham is a guy with a great handle. You know what I mean? Like he's got a great handle. He knows how to get himself into space. But what I see happening is I see things close around him really fast and he doesn't know how to respond. Like he just doesn't know how to read the game. Like this is why I don't play basketball. I played when I was a kid and I was tall. So everybody put me on the court. It happened too fast. The game was just too fast for me. Like I make whiskey because it's slow. I'm a slow processor. You know what I mean? Like I firmly believe is go to where God gives you strength and don't try to play in a game where God did not give you the gifts.
Yeah.
And so I had the gift of height and I'm physically capable. I was a good swimmer and everything because swimming was like, okay, all I have to do here is slow in terms of the mental processing and just endure pain, more pain than other people. Well, I can do that. But basketball is not like that. It's so fast. It is so fast, faster than football, faster than hockey, like faster than all these other sports. And so what I see in Dillingham is a very young man, 20 years old, with a lot of gifts, who is trying to get the mental, and I don't just mean the emotional mindset game, but literally the intellectual gift of God and alcohol. Yeah. You know what? Amateur basketball player, professional drinker. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
cheers.
So what I see in Dillingham is just a guy that the game is really fast. He doesn't quite know how he fits in it. He doesn't quite know how all the pieces fit in it. And so Finch is trying to do two things. He's trying to develop a point guard, which we desperately need. And obviously the head office believes in Dillingham's ultimate gifts, but just like him and Behringer, right? Behringer is our backup center. He's going to be the new Rudy, and he's going to be a better Rudy. This is a very talented kid who's 19 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what I see is he's introducing them. It's sort of like what you want a coaching staff to do with a young quarterback. You don't want to put him in the game and just get pummeled over and over again and lose his motivation. You want to put him in situations where he gets a little bit more understanding of the game, then take him out. Then put him back in, get a little more understanding of the game, then take him out. And if you win him, great. If you lose him, okay. That's what I see happening with Dillingham. But again, this is a Rube's point of view. I don't really know the coaching staff's mind.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. All right. So we're going to dive into this next one, the Founders Reserve. Tell us a little bit about this one real quick, and then I'm going to have you guys play a game with us. All right. So let's hear that.
So the Founders Reserve. It's 125 proof, so let's just start there. It's a robust whiskey, but I think what is different about it is how delicate and how candy-like and how clear and balanced all the flavors are. So I talked earlier about Beer Rain and how we're leaning in, and our innovation is on the fundamentals of what whiskey are, which is the fermented mash and then the distillate. So when we're cutting whiskey, that's like collecting the specific drops of the Beer Rain. We do that separately, so we're getting various parts of the distillate. There's the heads, hearts, and tails. We're doing redistillations of these in order to isolate the specific flavors that are coming out of the beer in terms of the spirit. And then we're barreling those separately. You can see these behind me, right?
Yeah.
And then when we're putting our standard products together, we have a very specific recipe of the percentage of, say, a very fruity heads cut distilled whiskey with a little bit of spice and creaminess from a tails cut distillate, around and kind of like dressing a core hearts distillation, which is going to be more like that butter cookie and cake like flavor. So that's like what the American is. When it comes to what the Founders Reserve is, this is where I get to play, and I get to put up different lineups every year, a different lineup every year. So I have my master blender give me 30, 40 different barrels from these of different distillates, and then I taste through them until an idea emerges. And I'm like, okay, with these barrels, if these are my players, it's sort of like Team USA coach. If these are my players this year in this Olympics, this is how I'm going to put them on the court together to take advantage of their talents. And it's going to look different. Team USA 2024 is going to be different than 2020, going to be different from 2028. Same thing with the Founders Reserve. Well, so with this particular Founders Reserve, I had a lot of really candy barrels, like old, like Safety Sucker, you know what I mean? Safety Sucker lime, orange, cherry, simple but pure and almost nostalgic flavors. And I was like, how can I do this in a way with a high proof whiskey to make a very candy-like, balloons-like flavor that just kind of floats off and slowly disappears? Whereas a lot of high proof whiskeys are like a big spice crash in the end, right? Like, so that's the difference. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I'm going with the Founders Reserve 3 in 2025.
So one thing I'll say about this before we sip it is the difference between you and Team USA is you definitely did not leave Jason Tatum on the bench with this barrel. This thing is absolutely delicious, and I love it. And me, I joke about it, and I was joking about it with my guy Tim from Pursuit Spirits a few weeks ago when he was on the episode. I was like, what I don't really like right now in some of the whiskey community, in certain groups and stuff like that, is that it's like it's either hazmat or it's not good. It's like, wait, that's not 150 proof. I don't want it. That's weak. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like me, I love that fine line. If it's delicious at 90 proof, it's delicious at 90 proof. Right. If it's delicious at 150, it's delicious at 150. And so what I love about this one is it doesn't swing the pendulum either way, where it's all sweetness and you're just like, man, if it had a little bit of something to balance that sweetness, it would be good. Or it's all spice and you're like, I can't drink that because it's just like, fire in my mouth. Like I'll just drink freaking cinnamon whiskey for that, like where's the fireball? But you found that great balance in this bottle. So cheers to you for this one. I'll let everyone grab a sip, enjoy it.
Absolutely. This is incredibly balanced yet very complex, which is what I love about it, because you pick up so many different flavor notes, and as it develops it changes. This is not a kind of one note wonder. You get some whiskeys where you taste them like, okay, this is the taste, it's simply this. This has a complexity to it, and I think it does speak, and you were talking about it earlier, it speaks to the sophistication of the blending process, because you literally could have kind of turned this into anything, but this combination works so well because it is both balanced and complex. And even at this proof, when I taste things, I always look for, what do I get off it first? Is it sweetness? Is it flavor? Or is it heat? And I'm hoping for flavor as the first thing that I get. And that's what this does. So, it's a great pour.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the last thing I'll say about it is, maybe a year and a half ago, I wasn't really into single malts. I hadn't tasted any that I really enjoyed. And then certain brands started putting stuff out, and I was like, okay, this is different, like started tasting things. But some of them, when I taste them, I like it because of a certain note. Like I'm like, oh, this tastes like a Tootsie Roll. I like it. But that's the prominent taste. What I love about this is that there's, throughout the sip, you have hints of different things.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
and so for me, I love the hints of, sweetness and sugar that you get, but then it balances with like hints of bitter cocoa or bitter coffee tones, and I'm just like, I love this. This is like a perfect pairing. Like it's not just coffee that I'm getting. It's not just chocolate I'm getting, but it's a blend of those with the other sweetness, and then paired with that like hit you in the face but not shatter your whole face kind of spice is absolutely delicious. I love it.
I appreciate
it
that very
really
much.
is spice as opposed to just heat, because you don't get that chest burn and you don't get that throat burn. You get the spiciness of it and you get that complexity, but you don't get that, oh, I'm 100% drinking alcohol. You know, you don't get that kind of ethanol-y burn to it, which I think is also a sign of a really well-made whiskey. And it's funny, a friend of mine was asking recently, like, you know, describe American single malt to me, because she'd never had it. And I was like, well, it's kind of like if Scotch and bourbon had a baby. You know, that's what you get. And it's sort of all the best qualities, I think, of each of those whiskeys. And this, I think, captures it really nicely.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that very much.
I'm right now.
If I can just, like, the way it's like putting a team together, you don't want to build it around one talent. It's about how all of them are working together to move spacing and structure around the court. So, you know, I really am so grateful. And I do want to say, like, we have a special deal for your listeners. I'm
posting it right now. That's what I was just about to say. So
I appreciate you. Where you can go online, go to Brother Justus, JUSTUS, like justus.com/shop, and put in your order. You can get the American, you can get the cold peated, you can even get the Founders 3. And then at the end, put in a special code. And this just shows you the degree of the Benedictine hospitality that comes through our brand, and just the just solid Minnesota decency. Your code is not Wolves, it's Knicks.
Look at you, man. You're something else, Phil.
In spite of that, I'm still going to tell people that the code is Knicks. Like, I'll still emphasize it in spite of that. My hand is shaking.
I mean, look at Christy's bar behind her. Like, this person knows what she's talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot, and that's just this wall. It's a lot.
You know, I knew that we were bringing in a great whiskey, you know, mind, and Phil joining us, but that sweet code that you've given us, I didn't know that you were so monk-like yourself. So I appreciate your love and compassion to the Knicks after the whooping you got last night. That is even more generous. So, all right. So I'm going to invite you guys into something, all right? I started something last week called Knictionary, where I had Apollo have to guess what this Knicks player is from days past. And it was actually really hilarious watching him try to piece it together. Me and my kids actually watched the video again this afternoon, and they were dying because my son is 4 and he picked it up before Apollo did. So we're going to bring this up. So if you're in the chat, we want to invite you guys in the Knictionary to be able to see if you guys can be able to see who this Knicks player is right here. He's one of my favorites, so let's do him justice. All right.
Oh, I got it.
All right, I'll give everyone else a chance. Everyone in the chat, look at the image, see what you got. All right. How's everyone feeling?
Not confident at all.
How we doing, Phil? How we doing?
All I got is the first name.
Lee said Andre Borgatti.
No way.
I did not put a toilet in that picture at all.
There's no toilet there.
No toilet. Once again, everybody, I posted the link on the side to be able to pick up a bottle of Brother Justus. I would wait till the end to figure out which one you guys think would be the bottle to get. Because everyone here is going to have a different thought, different take, and we'd love you guys to pick one that you feel would fit your palate best. All right. I'm going to let you go, Apollo. It seems like you got it pretty quickly this time.
Anthony Mason.
Anthony Mason. We got an Ant. We got Mr. Tony Soprano. We got Harlem World himself, Mr. Feel So Good, Mason Betta. We got the original Sin right here. Ant, Tony, Mace, Sin. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Good job, Apollo. I am so proud of you. That was a lot quicker than the Patrick Ewing of last week. So great job on that one.
Patrick Ewing is like the most iconic Nick of all time.
I know. All right.
I'm like, Pat, what?
Phil, let me show you the image. I spoon fed it to him. All right.
I in Minnesota wanted Patrick Ewing to. Oh, come on.
See,
It's a wing on the end. You know it's
a wing.
Right?
You know,
And
call me,
it's
you
not
know,
Riley
call
in
me,
the front.
Riley.
I'm gonna tell you what messed me up because I
And
got
that's
the
Rick
Pat,
Ross.
I got the Pat and the
Rick
Rick.
Ross.
I should have got it after Patrick.
Wait, you knew Patrick and still
Hugh
didn't
Jackman.
I still didn't even. You
And
know
a
why?
chicken
I
wing.
didn't understand the whole gist. That's why I got it so fast this time because I didn't understand it of
Guys,
what he was
You
asking.
got to go back and watch the
grammar
episode.
is what he's saying. The visual grammar of the sentence.
Yes.
He was going, Pat,
Patrick. You know
Rick,
what it was? No, it was
Hugh,
Hugh Jackman.
Wing.
It was the Hugh Jackman because I didn't know his name. I didn't know his.
But
his
but
first
but but Fritz gave it to you, and then
did.
you went
And then when he
Pat,
said Hugh, I said Hugh Jackman. Okay, Hugh.
Pat,
Patrick Ewing. 'Cause
Rick,
meanwhile.
Hugh, Ing, Pat, Rick, Hugh, Wing, and I even said Apollo. Say it faster.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I gotta interrupt you to say this thing. So my company president, Brother Justus president, is Helen Hardy, Chicago's very own Helen Hardy. She just was texting me Anthony Mason, and I have to shout her out, not just because she got it, but also because it's her birthday. And she's like, all of this and all of what I do isn't possible without her. And
Shout out
so
to her.
I have to shout out Miss Helen, Chicago's very own, on her birthday.
That's awesome. And I also want to give a shout out to the one that actually connected me with Phil, working with Brother Justus, Dawn, another, huge Timberwolves fan. She got a glimpse of what we were doing. I started talking to her about wanting Brother Justus on the show. She made it happen. She has been nothing but amazing. Sometimes communication can be so hard with whiskey brands. Like, let's be real. Like, you can go months waiting for the reply to the so-called important email. But she was absolutely incredible, and I'm so thankful for Dawn. Shout out to her.
Shout out Don.
So let's continue. Let's talk a little more about expectations for you guys for the season. What are you thinking, Phil, for your team? What are you thinking, Christy? And then we'll go into the last sip.
Well, I just have to say, this season feels a lot like last season. I mean, you sometimes, Shakespeare said, "Methinks he doth protest too much." And one of the things that the Wolves front office has been saying is continuity, continuity, continuity. Thank you, Lee, for the shout out to Helen's birthday. And the reality on the Wolves side is there's not continuity. Like, we have some key players, but we lost some key pieces. From 24 to, from 23 to 24, 24 to 25, there are these role players. It was Kyle Anderson before, and now it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We lost these guys, and you can overlook them because even our sixth man has some notoriety with Naz Reid, right? And you lose track of these key bench players that come in and bring the defensive intensity that you need them to, and can drain a three when you need them to. And we've lost a lot of those guys. So I feel like this year is still an adjustment year of our team learning how to play with your great players. And I have to say, my headline from last night's game was like, first half, the three best players on the team were the three players in the trade, right? Or I should say the three best players on the floor were the three players in the trade. Mm-hmm. Like, for our side, Randall, I had so much fear. The whole fan base had a lot of fear when he was coming over because he's an ISO player. This guy's 6'9", is strong like bull. And his skill set is, he is that guy you want Ant to be, which is, I'm stronger than you, I'm more skilled than you, and I'm going to make you cry one-on-one. That's Randall's style of play. He has adapted to life in Minnesota. And then because it's a beautiful life, like we don't have the scale of what you've got in New York City, but we have it in microcosm, and you're never 15 minutes away from whatever you want to go do. Yeah. Like if you want to go to the cabin, you want to go to the country, you want to go to the lakes, you want to go to the woods, you want to go to an all-star shore, you want to go to, whatever, you want to see whatever band is in town, you can do it here. And that like suits Julius in a beautiful way. And you can see him relaxing in and being the force that you think he can be. And DDV, we call him DDV. I realized I've listened to your show. You guys call him Devo.
Yep.
God, I love that guy.
Yeah.
That's everything we want to have on our team here in the Wolves. He's bringing that KG energy, like just that, just that. I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do whenever I'm going to do it. And you can do whatever you want to try to do about it. And I'm still going to do it. Like, I love that energy that he's bringing. So I still think we're figuring out how to work these pieces together in a way that's going to work. And we've been to the Western Conference Championships the last 2 years. Well, did you guys go to the Eastern Conference Championships? I'm just trying to remember.
We did this year.
Last year?
Last year before that? Was it last year before that too?
No, we had Tibbs.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I just was trying to get the historical record right. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is a team that can go straight back to the Western Conference Championships. It is much harder in the West than in the East. So, you know what? You've got the Bucks, you've got the Cavaliers. We got a lot more problems over in the West to try to get through. So I feel like I feel like we're on our way to figuring it out. It's going to be a slow start. It's going to be clunky. It's going to be awkward at times. But we've got one of the best players on the court. We've got two of your really great guys from New York. We love both of those guys. We lost one of our greats to New York, but we love to see him thrive. So I'm feeling really optimistic about the future. And I think we're going to be back in the Western Conference Championships.
Yeah, that's good, man. One thing I'll say is Julius, I always would say he's a great player, but he does not belong in New York. Like, he doesn't. Like, he's not built for the media, the pressure, the criticism. Like, here's the thing is, like, people don't realize that New York fans will, rock with you, as long as you show that you're rocking back. Like that one thumbs down moment that he had, that was unforgivable.
That's not him.
Yeah, that was unforgivable, but it was him not being able to hold the pressure of what comes with playing in New York, which is why a lot of players have never come to New York, because they know that pressure is there and they're not built for it. So it's good to see him actually in a place where he can focus on being a family, because I love my Knicks fans, but when they would crucify Julius for being a father before he was a Knick, I couldn't rock with that. I couldn't rock with that at all, And so I love that he's at least playing well, being received well. He started, there was a small period of time last year that he was bringing some of that like poor Julius attitude, and the Wolves fans were like, get him out of here. But luckily he turned the tide on that, and it looks like he's blending. And I'll say with Devo is the ex-girlfriend that for some reason you can't get the picture out the wallet. Like, I keep looking at that picture, like, and it bothers me every single time. Like, I watch your guys' games solely because I want to watch Devo play. Like, I love the way he plays basketball.
Yeah.
What did you think about his game? Like, what did you think about Julius and Devo last night? I gave a lot to you about your players. Tell me about our players.
They combined for 53 points last night. It was really, really tough watching them do that. We kept helping off of Devo, and I'm like, that is not the guy to help off at all. We should have known out of all the guys, especially Jalen, because it was a lot of times it was Jalen that was leaving him. I'm like, you should know better. You've known this guy since before you guys were even NBA players,
right?
But it was good to see. I wouldn't have liked to win the game and then see them play bad, because I'm still fans of them.
Fair.
I'm still fans of them. Especially Devo. I was a really, really big Devo fan. I'm not gonna say that I didn't like Julius, but when the trade happened, Devo was the part that made me more sad than anything, because I realized how much he meant to Jalen, and how much Jalen and Josh wanted him there. So I knew that kind of hurt him, but I'm glad to see that they're still making it happen there. My bad,
Yeah.
Phil. Go ahead.
No, you don't have to apologize at all. I love that take.
I appreciate that.
The one thing I'll say about Julius was there was never denying that he's an amazing player, that he's a great basketball player. I think the problem with Julius is that he is not the kind of player that can change his mindset or expectation to what he thinks something's going to be. So it's kind of like my wife gives me a hard time for it all the time, because if we're like, yo, we're going out for steak, and then we get to the place and they're like, yeah, we're out of steak, that completely wrecks what I was going to do. Like, I came to this place because I wanted steak. Like, yeah, but we got shrimp. I don't care what else you have. We came for a steak date, it's hard for me. My wife can just order something else, move on, and be like, it's all right, we'll have steak tomorrow, I'll buy steaks at the store. Like me, I'm like, no, this is upsetting. Like, I wouldn't have came here. That's Julius. So when Julius came, he came and was supposed to be alongside of RJ Barrett. Then they put him above RJ Barrett. Then he wasn't working as a number one, so they brought in Jalen. He could not adjust to being a number two. Like, as much as he would say, oh, it's Jalen's team, he never meant it in here and here. Like, you could always see it. Like, he would always try to take those keys back, the keys that were given to him for a short time and then taken away. When he went to Minnesota, he knew whose team it was. Like, you're not coming into Anthony Edwards' team and taking the keys from Ant. You're not. You are Robin. Don't come to the Batcave without permission. You're here to help. And so I think he plays better now, knowing his role, knowing that he does not need to be this guy, knowing that he's been that guy since he got there. That's always been his role. He does not deal well with change. So it's good to see him be able to play the way that he's supposed to play and not have that alter ego Julius Randle in his mind of, I have to be that guy. Like, that's how I'm important. Like, no, you're important in Minnesota for being an asset to Anthony Edwards, so that was good to see. Devo was heartbreaking for me to see him traded. But it's great to see him be able to adjust, because you could see when he got there that he was depressed. In the first few interviews, he was depressed. He didn't want to be there. So seeing towards the end of the season him talk about how Minnesota has really embraced him, has really loved him, how he's found another home there, that's comforting for me, because as someone who was such a fan of him and his game, but also the person he seemed to be in relationship with the rest of the organization, it's good to see him get that love, because I do think he was dealt a dirty hand. He came to New York to build that trio and build off of that, and then got blindsided. Julius Randle was in trade talks for years, so it shouldn't have been so surprising for him. But for Devo, it was a huge shock. So I'm glad to see him being embraced there. I do think it's going to be harder for you guys this year. The West is crazy. You got bottom tier teams right now having Kevin Durant as their number 2, and you're just like, wait, what? That team is in the West and they're bottom feeders? That's going to be hard. I think, honestly, it doesn't depend on Ant or on Randall. I think those two guys are going to be those two guys. But in order to beat the powerhouses in the West, you guys need Naz Reid to put up numbers nightly.
And he hasn't been doing it. He's up to a really slow start. It's a little demoralizing. You see that and you're like, this is the guy who's supposed to do a spark, and he's just a little bit flat. Yeah. And I hope it's going to turn around. But I love to hear what you're saying, because I feel like DDV, that, I don't know why that's what we call him out here.
Yeah.
DDV just brings that New York energy that we want to be. This is temperamentally, we're calm, we're chill, we're very humble, but we want the swagger. We want the KGs. That's why KG is the most beloved sports hero Minnesota of all time, because this is a guy who lifts us out of our sort of self-imposed cultural, we're not so great, don't worry about us, we're just fine living along, and brings that big ticket energy DDV is no KG, but he brings big ticket energy. You know what I mean? And you believe it. You're like, this guy believes in himself so much. He's flying around everywhere. Like defensively last night, he was insane. Like he was doing steals so hard he couldn't collect them afterwards. You know what I mean? Like he's batting that ball out so fast he can't catch it, and no one else can because it's just ricocheting around. We love that energy. We're always going to forgive that kind of hustle, especially when we're not seeing it from the other players that really ought to be bringing it. Yeah. Like Julius, he's not always bringing it on the defensive side, on the rebound side. You know what I mean? And Jaden is a extremely talented kid, but you just wonder, he doesn't have that EBK, everybody killer energy.
Yeah.
And what I love about this Knicks team that I do see is I feel like you've got 6-7 guys deep on EBK. Yeah. I feel like McBride's EBK. You know what I mean? Like, you got definitely Mitchell Robinson's EBK. You've got a lot of guys deep who are like, give it to me. I'll kill these people. Yeah. I'll just cold cock them. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like we need that on the Wolves. Ant can bring that energy. You know, Dante can bring that energy. We need that from a couple more players if we're going to make it through really the bloodbath of that's going to be the West.
Yeah. And that's why I said Nas, because Nas has that potential, but he's just not doing it. You know, like the reason you guys bought into him so hard after last year was because he was showing glimpses of that. You know, like there were moments that like other teams were like, if we just had a Nas Reed, that would put us above, you know? And so him not doing that, but I do want to give a kudos to you guys on one thing, and then I'm going to throw it over to Christy to hear about, you know, any hope for the Grizzlies. But what I do love about McDaniels is that he kind of did a similar thing to what Emmanuel Quickley did for us years ago, and Miles McBride has done as well, which has been, they have been the defensive anchor, but he is now starting to come into his own offensively. And you saw that last night, the confidence of shooting the three. That's stuff that you didn't necessarily see from him last year, you know, was that confidence. And he said he was going to work on it this summer. And it's apparent that he did. You know, one thing I always say is there's a lot of players that talk every summer. You want to put videos up of you doing this, that, and whatever, and then we never see it in the season. But I give kudos when you see it, you know, and so kudos to him for that. Christy, what are your thoughts?
So here's the thing. You know, I'll be honest. I'm praying for 500. Like, let's just, I will start there. This is if we can get to 500, I'm going to consider it a success. But also, you know, one person we haven't talked about is Cedric. You know, as a rookie, he is coming in and he is doing his job. I think he's the second rated rookie right now from this class. So he's making his contribution. Yep. I think this is going to be a year where we're just going to have to celebrate whatever small wins we get. I think Cedric Coward's going to be one of those wins. You know, I think Ja's going to continue. He's consistent. In spite of everything else, what I can say is when Ja's on the court, he's consistent. You know, he's going to be good for 20 points or so. You know, we need a little more. We need some other players to get into those double-digit numbers, and we don't have a ton of that yet. But I think, you know, the highlights are going to be, and we've already stated, the West is tough. The West has always been tough. And when the Grizzlies came from Toronto to Memphis and had to move over to the West, that was a huge, huge hit. You know, that was a huge hit. And the West this year is even tougher than it has been, you know, at other times. So we've got a long way to go. We've got a steep learning curve, we'll say. And again, I have to go back and talk about the coaching staff some. Like it's a new coaching team for the most part. You know, we've got a new coaching team, and it's really interesting to me to have a head coach who never played in the league and who's really only been in this league for one season. You know, he was an assistant coach last year. So, and there is a difference between European ball and American ball, like just in the style of play, in the speed of play, there are some differences. So there are a lot of things, there are a lot of hurdles to get over. This is going to be a year where it's just, you know what, we're going to do the best we can. We're going to pray our way through this one. Like I said, I'm hoping for 500. I won't be shocked if we don't get there. But what I'm really hoping is what this year becomes is a true kind of back to fundamentals. Let's build, let's create some team synergy between both the coaching staff and the players. Let's give Cedric some minutes and see what he can really develop into. Because I think there's a lot of potential there. I mean, he's already putting up 13, 15 points a game, which being, your first year in the league, 9-10 games in, that's a solid performance. So I think we got to keep investing there and just hope for the best. We're hoping for the best this year.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say is we've had some people in the Knicks fan base when it's been some hard years where they're just like, just tank, get into the lottery.
Again, get a good pick.
Get a good pick. Like, it's over.
Next year.
One thing I want to say is looking at your guys' roster, you guys are only like 2 pieces away from being contenders, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because when you look at it, Ja is Ja,
Mm-hmm.
However, I do not feel here's the little bit of a difference, in my opinion, between Ja and Ant. I feel like Ant has not just the athleticism and the talent, but he's got, I believe, a little bit more of a basketball understanding of how to win and win with a team. I feel like Ja is still banking on his abilities,
individual
more
solo performance.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that changes, then of course Ja's that foundation,
Mm-hmm.
But if it's always going to be like that, then it's one of those things that it's like, if he can't be taught to be more than the jump through the roof, I'm box office kind of performer, then is it worth it? Is it worth robbing the best years of guys like Jaren Jackson, like who is an elite talent? For me,
100%.
For me, I go no, because you don't want to wait so long for a player to actually want to do more than what he's doing and lose the rest of your team. So when I look down the rest of the roster, like you said, Cedric is playing well for a rookie. You have Zach Edey, who for a center in his second year, that is the kind of guy. I was dying for Zach Edey to be drafted for the Knicks. When everyone asked me who I wanted, you can go back, look at videos of reels that I put out about the draft, who I wanted. It was Zach Edey. And in the offseason, you can go and look at videos of who I wanted to trade for or sign if he didn't pick up his contract with you guys. And that was Santi, because Santi, is a great off the bench piece. He's the kind of guy you want as your bench backup. The problem
100%.
with Santi was, he played so well last year that his contract went through the roof, So you guys invested into Santi a lot of money. You guys have a lot invested in Jaren Jackson. You guys have Edey on a great contract, and you have Crawford on a great contract. So the big decision is going to be, do you move on from Ja? And that's what the front office really needs to think about, because there are some teams that the way that they're built, they can have a Ja just come through, jump through the roof, and it'll make them good, and you guys can get enough picks and, other players to, build your roster that builds you guys now and in the future. So I think if you move him, you get one more solid piece there. You pick up in the draft, you pick up an actual vet that has experience, playoff winning experience. You get that kind of vet on your guys' team, and I think you guys can be contenders. As much as I love Ja, as I love watching what he can do, there's a difference. You can only jump through the roof so many times, and your team still lose, that it doesn't really matter. It's that's great if you're watching a movie or a highlight reel, but what else is this going to contribute to winning? And what you guys can get for a Ja Morant right now is way more valuable than what Ja can currently bring to you guys. So that's just my thought.
I agree completely. And I think that, and to your point, he is a great highlight reel. He's a lot of fun. He's energetic. Like, he's all the things you, in theory, you want on your team. But he is not the team player. He doesn't make everybody around him better.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what you want in your quote unquote franchise player. And he's the closest we have right now to a franchise player. You want them to make the rest of the team better. And he doesn't do that. And I don't know if that's a quality that can be easily taught, especially at this point. I mean, he's been in the league now for several years.
Exactly.
If he's not picked it up yet, I don't know that he's going to. So I wouldn't be mad at getting somebody who is a solid vet, who can mentor these younger players, because we do have a ton of young talent that with the right person and under the right tutelage can really, build something for the franchise long term. So I think I agree. I think it'd be a good move. I also, though, think, and this is something that the Grizzlies have had to fight before, the city is going to be pissed about it. And that is a hard thing to battle, because there's always two games that are being played. It's the how many points do you score, and it's how many people you get in the seats. And the city will be pissed, and it is going to, I don't know what that will do to ticket sales, which leads to sponsorship, which is where teams actually make their money. So they've got an interesting thing. It reminds me back when I was still with the team, when Powell left, when Pau Gasol left, people were devastated.
Yeah.
They were devastated, and Mark was phenomenal, but people hated to see him go, particularly to see him in that yellow and purple jersey. I think that would be a big hit, and I don't know that the team has another player that has a big enough profile yet to take care of that loss.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting situation they're in.
I think it's a little different, though, than the Gasol, because if you look at, when that trade happened, everyone could back not just his play, but who he was to the fans and to the city. I think that it comes to a point in time where you deal with so much as a fan base, drama-wise, that, you're constantly going, okay, I see this is always an issue. Regardless of what he can do on the court, it hasn't led to winning, and it hasn't led to, the advancement of our franchise. So that's why this, right here where he said you have to trade him too soon before it becomes too late.
Yeah.
So that's why I loved Apollo's take, where he said something like Atlanta, because if you look, they have enough pieces that he can come through and be the jump through the roof guy, and it be enough because the other players that are young there effectively produce enough offensively that they can contribute alongside of him. You make a trade for a good enough player, and your fan base will be fine if it's going to lead to actual winning, because Trae Young has been unhappy in Atlanta for years. So if you trade a Trae Young and a Ja Morant, you bring Trae Young to Memphis, who is and Trae loves to lob. He loves centers that are going to lob. That's Jaren Jackson feeding time.
Yes.
Ja Morant is not looking for Jaren Jackson. He's looking for his bucket. Trae Young is going to get his bucket, but he's also going to look for the assist, because that's what Trae Young does. He knows how to dish. So that's why when Apollo put that on, my mind was like, boom, you get him out of there. Atlanta, you bring him there. Ja's out of his comfort zone of what he's used to. You bring Trae Young to that fan base that feeds the fans what they want, a winning guard. And I think you guys see, improvements immediately. You see Edie and Jackson getting fed the ball. You see Crawford getting opportunities because they want to guard Trae Young, because Trae, unlike Ja, is going to score from everywhere evenly throughout the game, as opposed to Ja, who's going to do more driving on you and making you look like a poster. So that's my thoughts there. But let's go into this one
Not
before
mad at that take.
we start wrapping up. This right here, I'm so excited about this, bro. When I read this, I freaked out because unlike a lot of whiskey people, I love Isla Scotch. Peat is my jam. I fell in love. Like, I liked bourbon, I liked rye, but when I first started drinking Isla Scotch and had that campfire taste in my mouth, I loved it. But a lot of people, they're like, I don't like the I like flavors, but I don't like the feeling it here.
Yeah.
And so when you said cold peated, I was like, first, what the frick does that
What
mean?
is that? Yes.
Second, put it in my glass. And so talk about it real quick.
Yeah, so the reason you don't know what cold peated means is because nobody ever has done it before. This is a style of whiskey that I invented. And I invented it because I looked at, Isla Scotches, which I do love. Like, I actually do love a peated Scotch. But I looked at where does that come from? So a peated Scotch is coming from peat. And peat is a material. It's a material that's 8,000 to 10,000 years old. And so in Scotch, traditional Scotch, what they do with that peat is they use it as a fuel to burn that then smokes the barley that you then turn into a smoky beer that you distill into a smoky whiskey. In Minnesota, I think you recognize I love my state. And so what I want to say about Minnesota is we have as much peat in Minnesota as Scotland and Ireland combined.
Wow.
So
really?
Didn't realize
6
that.
million acres of peatlands in Minnesota. We are the most peated state in America. Alaska has more total, but it's spread over a much larger area. 10% of Minnesota's land area is actually peatland. And so,
I had no idea.
right?
Crazy.
It's extraordinary. Like, and so I looked at peated scotches, like, so what is peat? Peat is actually every year, every growing season, every plant, every tree, every bit of moss that grew in a specific area since the glaciers melted at the end of the Ice Age. And those plants have not decomposed and rotted and like all that stuff. They're still there. And they're getting layer after layer compressed into this extraordinary material that in Scotland, they dig up and light on fire to smoke the barley. And I was like, well, what does an 8,000-year-old ingredient actually taste like? And so I invented cold peated whiskey, and by figuring out how to actually use that ingredient, peat, as an ingredient as opposed to a fuel for smoking barley. It's sort of like if you were like in barbecue, you're like, okay, we've got the pork, we got the pork loin, or we got the brisket, and then we're smoking it with this apple wood. Well, what if you actually use the wood as an ingredient in the overall roast? Like, that's what I was trying to think about. And so what we've done with the cold peated, and why we're thinking is like, think of cold pressed coffee. We're actually taking the whiskey after the barrel and pressing it through cold peat so that the peat is both filtering the whiskey like Tennessee whiskey, right? So Jack Daniels, the Lincoln County process of filtering through maple charcoal is both filtering, but then it's also infusing 8,000-year-old botanicals and organics into the whiskey.
I love it. I love it.
I love that.
Wow.
And Tennessee whiskey is the perfect analogy for it, because as you were describing what you do, that's what I was thinking. Like, oh, okay, this is like Tennessee whiskey. All right, I am henceforth and forevermore calling this Minnesota whiskey.
I appreciate you, Christy.
Yes.
And actually, I actually trademarked the process as the Aiken County process in homage to the Lincoln County process.
Lincoln County process. All
but
right.
then Aiken County is the county where our peat all comes from.
I love it.
Cody,
I
it's
love
not dirt. This is the thing that everybody thinks, that peat is dirt. Peat actually has no dirt in it at all. There's no minerals. There's no soil. There's none of that in that. Peat is pure plant material. It just built up over 8,000 years since the glaciers melted.
Honestly, you blew my mind, bro. Like, I had no clue. I seriously thought I had to go overseas to find, peat to be made, because it's never been made here in the States that I knew of, and so as a whiskey fan, I'm ecstatic, and I honestly need to friggin' get with you and find a way to put out a Brother Justus Knicks Nightcap peated whiskey, because this is like, honestly, and it doesn't hurt that this bottle is a work of art. Like, I honestly love it.
Amazing.
Like, the illustration on the back, everything. Like, this is the kind of bottle that you finish and you don't throw away.
I'm not throwing it out ever.
Yeah, it's
no, this is a good infinity bottle.
And,
Yeah.
and again, to your fans and to your listeners, that Knicks code at brotherjustus.com/shop, I'm gonna pay for the delivery. That's what I'm gonna do for you. If you're in New York, if you're in Tennessee, and you want to get a bottle of Brother Justus cold peated, I'm gonna pay for the shipment. I want to get it to you.
I love it. I love it.
Because this is what I love about whiskey, and I think I've already felt this from all of you tonight. Like, what unites us is not the specifics of what we love, but how much we love the specifics.
Yeah.
The reason we can talk to each other is because y'all love New York. Y'all love Memphis. You love your players. You love the way your game is played in your city. I might not, I'm a rival. I got my ass kicked last night, but still I'm a rival. I'm going to come back and say, we're going to beat you next time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I recognize in you, not the specifics, but the intensity of your love for where you live.
Yes.
And that to me is what everybody can relate to that. Wherever they came from, wherever their mom came from, wherever their dad came from, grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, grandpa, great-grandpa, you recognize the love that we have for where we come from. And the specifics of that's what actually binds us together. Mm-hmm. And so Minnesota whiskey, the fact that our ingredients come from Minnesota is not because we're like, oh, Minnesota is better. It's just that Minnesota has this unique environment where the Great Plains, the Eastern Hardwood Forest, and the Boreal Forest all come together, along with the headwaters of the Mississippi. So when I sit here in Minnesota, I feel connected to y'all in New York and Memphis because of the hardwood forests that I see outside my window. Mm-hmm. But I also feel connected to the people in Denver and Bozeman, right? And all the way down to Taos, because that Great Plain that I see out my western window goes all the way out to the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
But I also feel connected all the way around to across Canada and to Alaska because of the boreal forest that's north of me, right outside my window, that direction.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. Like that's I feel like all of us right now, we want to feel like we're American in a way that connects us to who we are, where we live, and the people around us, the neighborhoods we live in, whatever the environment or wherever people came from that are our neighbors, but also feel connected to other Americans in our country who live a very different life and have very different passions.
Yeah.
And something you said earlier, and it reminds me of it. So two things. First, the thing I love about whiskey is so many people still have in their mind, in the United States, good whiskey comes from Kentucky. No, great. There's some great things coming out of Kentucky. Yep. I'm not saying there 100%. Isn't, but every region of the country has its own unique quality that makes theirs taste a little bit different. When you think about the heat in Texas, which affects the aging, when you think about the water in Colorado, which, gives that Colorado whiskey a very distinctive flavor. And now I know more about Minnesota. So I really appreciate that. But the other thing that you said earlier, when this kind of links back to basketball and whiskey, you were saying how there's so many different ways to win in basketball. Like no one team does it the same way. Somebody's game is going to be based on their center. Somebody else is going to be all about their guards. Somebody else, they've got the best forwards, whatever it is. Whiskey, I feel like, is very much the same thing. There is no one way to make a great bottle of whiskey. Everybody has their own unique thing. Tennessee whiskey, we've got our method. Kentucky, they've got their limestone and all of that. Minnesota has peat. Who knew? Who knew? Like literally, who knew?
So I love the connection, and it just does remind us that there is no one good whiskey. Everybody has their own flavor and their own favorites. But you can get some really great juice out of so many different places. And it's that uniqueness of every bottle that keeps folks like me with this kind of stuff in their house, because all out of all these 300 plus bottles, all of them taste different. And that's what I love. So it's just a cool kind of tie-in between the two, I think.
You know, and before we go to everyone's favorites of tonight, I'll say this, and that's why we do this show. You know, like, we love basketball, and I have been a huge fan of whiskey because the way I saw whiskey growing up wasn't in a healthy way at all. You know, like, and the way that my wife saw it was completely different than me. You know, she grew up in a very small country Christian home where it was vilified. I grew up a sinner like can be in New York where it was glorified, you know, and then we got married, met in the middle, you know, and it was like, okay, how do I show my kids a healthy understanding of what whiskey is, you know, and how it can be enjoyed as the craft and beautiful, you know, craft that it is. And so when I started the Knicks Nightcap and I approached Apollo, I was like, yo, you're one of like my favorite people to talk to about the Knicks. Like, I know you don't know whiskey, but I know that you will. Like, I know that you'll appreciate the process because it's very similar, like you said, to basketball. There's so many complexities to it. And the great thing about whiskey is that unlike basketball, you don't have to be loyal to one team, you know? And so I started this show because I wanted to highlight so many different brands that bring something different to the table, because everyone's palate is going to be completely different. You know, they're not going to taste the same things that you do because you haven't had the same life experiences, but this brand might fit better for what you enjoy. And so that's why I wanted to start something. And people were like, there's not enough actual NBA fans who like good whiskey. And I'm like, you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. Like, they might just think it's Captain and Coke, but that's because they haven't tasted cold peated from Minnesota. You know, that's because they haven't tried MGP from Indiana. You know, that's because Blue Run hasn't showed them that their addiction for sneakers can be similar to their addiction to whiskey. You know, like Short Barrel and ASW in Atlanta are showing that you can do something different in the blending world, you know, and the pot distilling world. And so that's why I created this show. And I'm so thankful to have both of you guys on it, because I appreciate both of you guys and what you do in your space. And it's good to actually talk ball with people that actually understand it and love the craft of whiskey that I do as well. So I'm going to roundtable it. Phil, I would start with you because you're the actual mastermind behind these. Which is your favorite of these three bottles to enjoy? I know it's like picking a favorite kid. Like, you don't really want to do it.
We all have favorite kids. It's fine. Everybody really does. You got a favorite.
I mean, that's actually the truth. But, you know, and honestly, like, I'm most proud, honestly, of the cold peated, because it's rare in any industry, let alone an industry that's 1,000-year-old, to do something new.
Innovate.
To be able to actually stand on it and say, like Steph, right? Like, this is the closest I'll ever get to somebody like Steph. Whereas, like, I saw this opening, nobody else saw it. It was sitting there the whole time. And I just said, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to just spray threes, and you're not going to do anything about it. And at the end of the day, there's going to be more points in my column than in yours, and that's all that matters. And so I would have to say, like, the cold peated is, I love all of the whiskeys, but when you get to contribute something new to a 1,000-year-old tradition and say, I'm not taking from anybody on this, I'm not standing on anybody's shoulders, I'm not trying to take anybody else's work and pass it off on my own, but instead I'm actually contributing something new to that lineage that I hope people love, and I hope people feel like is part and extends and expands and builds on that lineage. Like, what more can you ask for in a life? So of all of them, it's got to be the cold.
So in memory of that, my guy Lee said it reminded him of an album cover. And so we're going to share the album cover because this is a good thing to be compared to. All right. So this is the Justice Cross album cover. And it says it gave him those kind of vibes. So when I saw that album cover, I thought it was dope. When I saw these bottles, I had to have them. I honestly, like, I saw them on, that's the one thing that's really cool about like being, you know, in the whiskey space on Instagram and TikTok is like someone will post something and you're like, what is
I
that?
need that.
Like,
Yes.
what is that? You know, and sometimes people post stuff and it's easy to scroll through. But as soon as I saw the black gold like bottle, I was hooked. Like as someone that spent years of his life as a graphic designer, where less is more, but the right font with the right color can completely change everything. Like I saw that, was hooked, and then I read the words cold peated and my Scotch loving mind was blown. So shout out to you. All right, Apollo, what is your favorite of the three?
I'm interested in this opinion because Apollo, you haven't said anything about the juice. I've heard from Christy. I've heard from Phil, all caps.
I'm up. So, you know, the rookie in me is running wild. So I'm trying not to be a rookie. But honestly, my favorite is the Founders Reserve from what I've tasted. And I guess it's because of the sweet taste in there, the balance of the sweet in there. Very, very close second is of course, you know, this guy here. But the Founders Reserve is my favorite. I got a lot of I got a stone fruit kind of taste out of it, and that's kind of what I'm starting to adapt to more. Like, I guess that's kind of like a go-to for me.
I mean, come on, you can't call yourself a rookie when you're throwing out words like stone fruit.
Stone fruit.
Let's just be real, you know what I mean? It's like that's like a young guard like splitting the defense and popping out to an open three and saying like, I'm just getting started. I don't really know how modern NBA defenses work.
I didn't know which stone fruit, but it's one of them. It's one of them. I can't narrow it down yet, but I'm getting there. And you know, it's definitely something that I can see myself pouring a glass healthily and taking a nice little drink out of there.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, Christy, you got the floor.
Yes, mine is this Founders Reserve. I got to agree. They're all great. They truly are. And I'm so excited. I've got 3 girlfriends coming over tomorrow because I want to pour them all for them because I'm very curious to get their thoughts and reactions. But yeah, the Founders Reserve, it's the complexity of it for me.
Yeah.
It is the way the flavors develop and change on the palate that I really appreciate. It's the fact that it is not a one note kind of whiskey. So I am really enjoying it. However, I will say the cold peated, I will tell anybody, I am in the process of developing my Scotch palate. So I appreciate this as a stepping stone and as a bridge to kind of help me get, especially to those Isla Scotches. But this Founders Reserve, I have gone back to this. You can see this bottle, you know, and it's just drinking. So I've had a couple pours out of this already. So yeah, it is really, really good.
I love that. So for me, all 3 of them are dope, like very, very unique and different, which is what I love about what you guys are doing. You know, like 3 for 3. You know, that's hard to do. Your first 3 releases are both, you know, all top notch. And I would pour them for anybody. Like there's sometimes there's sometimes brands send me bottles and I have to be honest with them. I'm like, listen, if I give the review, you might not like it. So you want me to just skip what we talked about? You know, like, what do you want? You know, but with these, I'd be bold enough to do any of them. The Founders Reserve is absolutely incredible. Like they were saying, so complex. But for me, it has to be the cold peated. Like as a Scotch lover that, you know, you give me a Lagavulin, you give me a Cole Isla, you give me a Bunnahabhain, Lafroig, you know, an Ardbeg, you know, any of those. And I'm on cloud 9. But this does something to my mind. Like this is like some weird Matrix kind of like what alter reality into the Spider-Verse kind of thing am I experiencing here right now? Because it just doesn't make sense to me at first. but it's all the flavors I love in a peated whiskey. But I think what makes me so happy is like what Christy was saying is I love peated whiskey so much, and I want my friends to be able to enjoy, but they just can't get there.
Right.
And I feel like this gives them an understanding of the deliciousness that peat brings to a whiskey. And then they can eventually get to somewhere where they, have more of the, smoke like essences of it, not being the cold. But this is refreshing. Like that's another thing is like peated whiskey. I love it, but I would not drink peated whiskey like when it's
in the summer
degrees or higher. That's just not something I'm going to experience. Like I want peated whiskey around a fire. I don't want like the sun to be a fire and I'm drinking peated whiskey. So this is something I could drink on a hot night, on a cold night, on a night that ends with Y. Like this is the kind of bottle that I'm going to enjoy. So I love it. I appreciate both of you guys. I am putting for all of our guests, please follow Brother Justus, pick up a bottle, pick up 3 bottles. And here's the thing. If you don't like it, blame me and I will send you my address and you can send them to me. I have no problem having backups. I will tell you that it's your fault for not liking it. So I'll pay you 50% of what you paid for it. So you at least get something back for not liking good stuff, but my collection will grow. So pick up a bottle, follow both Brother Justus, follow Christy, follow what they're doing because they're doing amazing things. So if you guys want to tell the viewers one last thing before we wrap up this part of the night, now's your time. Christy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So yes, please do follow me. I'm the Whiskey and Cigar Chick across all platforms. I love kind of sharing both education and acting as an ambassador for both whiskey and cigars. And if I'm honest, especially for women, like we are the fastest growing market for both of those. We're already 36% of whiskey drinkers and similar on cigar smokers. But those can both be overwhelming and kind of intimidating if you don't know how to drink and if you don't know how to smoke. So that's what I'm doing. I'm helping to educate to really expand those consumers. And to that point, we didn't talk about this bottle as much, but I can vouch that this pairs really nicely with a medium body cigar, especially a Nicaraguan Puro. So one that has Nicaraguan tobacco for the binder, filler, and the wrapper. So we didn't talk about this one as much. Please don't take that to mean this is not a great bottle. And I can say of the 3, in my opinion, this was the one that paired best with a cigar. So there you go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Appreciate you so much, Phil.
Absolutely.
Closing thoughts?
That's amazing, Christy. You know what? I just want to tell your viewers, I love your fandom. Like the Knicks are a great team. It's a great franchise. We Wolves out here in Minnesota, we're howling because we want to be up where y'all are. So we're doing everything that we can to do that. What I want to say is just like, look out here to Minnesota. We've got the land, we've got the ingredients. Give us a chance. Taste the whiskey. I really appreciate you, Phil. I really appreciate you, Apollo, for bringing us on. I know this was enemy territory. I also know you did have the gloves on. I look forward to many more conversations with y'all. And Christy, I can't wait for us to talk about how we compare some cigars.
Yes.
With all of our whiskeys. And I've just had the time of my life. This is like literally every Venn diagram that I have in my life right now has been like
that concentric circle, just the circle on top of each other.
I love it. Like seriously, I'm blessed to have both of you guys on. I love what you're both doing. Like I said, Phil, I'm serious, we need to figure out partnering, putting out, some kind of limited release. Christy, I definitely want to do more stuff with you. And come playoff time, you can come hang out, Christy. You won't be in the playoffs.
I'm going to have some time on my hands. I'm going to have some time.
So I'll just say it right now. Why don't, Apollo, Phil, Christy, y'all come to Minnesota. We'll take care of it. You come, go through my barrels. We'll lay them out for you. Put together the blend that you think is delicious for what you want to achieve. We'll make it happen. I'm making this promise right now to all your listeners. You can vouch. You can vouch it. You can second guess it. You can corroborate it. I would love to have you guys out here. I think there's a lot that we can do to make great flavor come to all of y'all's audience.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I sent you.
Dope.
I sent you my personal number in the private chat. I'll also make sure that Dawn gets it to you if you don't write it down now. But yeah, let's definitely make that happen. And if Wolves Knicks play in the playoffs, we need to figure out a way to do something together. Like we definitely got to.
I hope we can talk after every Wolves Knicks game.
I love it. I would love it. I would love it. I sent you my number. Me and Dixon Deadman talk, ever since he first came on and talked Knicks, him and I talk every single, few weeks about what's happening around the NBA and with the Knicks. So we'll definitely make that happen, Phil. Appreciate you both. Thank you guys so much. And cheers. God bless you guys.
Thank you, guys. God bless. Nice to meet you.
All righty. Well, that was a ton of freaking fun. Let's go through the last few minutes before we let you go, because I know you have an early morning. We did Dictionaries, but let's talk this real quick before we end. What do you think from what we've seen so far? You've told me, but you haven't told the listeners. What is needed for the Knicks to win a chip?
Well, number one is defense. I think there's one thing that we can do is we can score. We have guys that, if anything happens, anything breaks down, they can get the ball in the basket. I think our problem has always been how consistently we can play defense. And if we can consistently keep up the defensive intensity that we've seen from guys like Josh, OG, Mitch, Deuce, if we can just, and Mikal, of course, which I think he's really going, I guess, unnoticed in a way, because Mikal is he's doing so much better offensively that people are starting to not even really notice how well he's doing defensively. But I think defense is the number one thing that will lead us to where we want to go, the promised land. And that starts with Mitchell Robinson, which, he has to be healthy in order for that to happen. But Mitchell Robinson, if he's there, that's number one thing. Of course, Deuce, OG, but the defense, if these guys, like I said, the main guys, the wing stop guys, which is OG and Mikal, Josh, of course, Mitch, the length that we have with those guys, those four guys alone, and just how they get up and down the court and play defense. If we can continue to have that contribution to what we have going on, of course, to add in what we've been doing with the offensive side of the ball and getting more passes in and just allowing everyone to touch the ball and to get into the offense. I think it's going to be really, really scary for the league once these guys really get confidence. If Cat continues to play the way he's been playing, and having guys like Mitch and all the other defensive guys help him defensively, I think it's going to be really, really tough for teams to see, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah. No, I agree. One thing that someone said here, Xavier said health. Mm-hmm. And with the questions of right now, how healthy Cat is, it is definitely that, like early in the season from Josh's back to Mitch, limited minutes to Cat, having a few games where, we weren't sure if he was even going to play. I think that's going to play a big part. We definitely need our guys to be healthy because this roster works. That's what I'm starting to see is this roster works, but it has to be healthy. Like we need all the guys that we have. Like this roster works the way it's constructed when we have the people. So for you, OG and Mitch were part of that. I agree. Mikal is doing all the things that fans picked him apart for last year. He's now doing all those things, and I feel like it's kind of unfair to pick him apart but not give him the praise he deserves because he has looked like the exact person that we brought him here to be. So salute to Mikal for that. But for me, I think that we finally have the offense and defensive identity that we need, but we can't stray from it. That's the thing. Like, it's so easy to result in things that and are more comfortable with and stray from the things that are actually working and giving results. So we can't go away from the offensive and defensive movement that we're doing. We can't stray away from the 30 plus assists. That to me is my number one. Give me 30 plus assists, and a team needs to play like the 98 Bulls to beat you. Like, and then I can't give you crap for it. You know, like I can't get mad at you that you lost that game. So that to me is the two things that I really believe are the keys to us winning. Lee Escobedo, if you're there, I am going to put a link in the chat for anyone that wants to say last minute thoughts, but I wanted to make sure that I do not keep Apollo too late because he's got to work in the morning, and usually we go later, but he's still getting into the routine of getting back to the office early in the morning and having to do it with a leg that's still recovering. So I want to make sure that we're gracious to that. Sunday's our next game. We got a few days off, which is, you know, a good thing for our guys. We go up against the Nets. I'll let you close with what your thoughts are for that game.
We better not lose to these guys. That's the first thing that comes to mind. We have over the last 10 to 15 years had an issue with playing down the competition. We kind of did that with Miami. Kind of did that in the first game versus the Bulls. I do not want that to be a reoccurring issue. Yeah. So we have to jump out ahead early. We got to, you know, what we've been doing is working. I don't see why you would go away from it. Having Mitch out there getting offensive rebounds, getting us more opportunities to hit shots, it's just giving us just so much more room to grow as a team. But I think you just stick with what we've been doing, passing the ball, continuity, and beating a team like the Nets should not be a thing. It should not be an issue. These guys are still NBA players. So I don't want us to feel like we can slide out of our system a little bit and still win. No, like you have to. I think every game at this point is practice to getting to where you need to be. So you need to handle every single game like it's the championship game. Yeah, and stay in rhythm, stay in the system. And if you do that, if you can't, if guys like the Minnesota Timberwolves can't beat us, it's you shouldn't be dealing with a team like the Brooklyn Nets, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. You know, they're 1-7 right now. But we've done it before where we've gone into situations where we're cocky and we put down our guard and let teams eat that shouldn't. So I agree this should be a cakewalk, but we still need to handle it like it's NBA players. You know, one thing that, you know, I've always seen is the worst NBA player is still better than your favorite street player, you know, like and seeing those no-name NBA players go out there and still be elite. So you definitely can't put your guard down. But I appreciate you, Apollo. It's been a fun night. Shout out to Brother Justus. Shout out to Christy for coming out. I'm going to bring Lee Escobedo up, but I want to make sure that you get your rest, brother. So I will check on you later on in the week. I don't know what that was.
Two glasses touching each other.
But next week, I'm wicked excited. I just got them in today, so I'm going to head to UPS in the morning to send these to you. But Rare Character, which you guys know is one of my favorite brands in whiskey, period, just sent me this extremely limited and coveted Old Cassidy bottle. This thing sells out instantly. You'll see it on secondary within days for 500 plus. This bottle is incredible, and the guy that actually picks it with them, my guy Frank, who works for Uprocks and Remy Martin, he will be on the show with us next week with Peter from Rare Character. So it's going to be a really, really dope episode. I'm looking forward to it, having some of my favorite people in the whiskey community that are also, you know, Frank is a diehard Knicks fan, you know, so he's going to be on the episode just chatting Knicks all night. So I'm looking forward to that. So tune in next week. And Apollo, you have a great night, bro. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, bro. As always, I'll see you next time, man. Shout out to the chat and everyone watching, man. Thank you.
Good night, bro. Peace. And now, without further ado, I'm going to bring my guy up. All right. The Latin assassin himself. All right. Mr. Substack, Mr. I write better than your favorite writer, Mr. I talk Knicks better than your favorite Knicks talker, Mr. I got fashion game that is my own style and you wish you had it. All right, Mr. I used to have bad lighting a week and a half ago, had a few conversations with Phil, and now I have that glow up, Mr. Lee Escobedo.
What's up, Phil, man? Great to be here, bro. That was a hilarious intro, man. My dad used to roast me for my terrible lighting. I didn't know how to fix it. So I had to call an expert, and guess who the expert is? My main man, Phil.
What up? What's up, bro? How's your night going, man?
Beautiful, man. Been peeping game. Love the two guests you have on. I really like I think it's one of the smartest things that you're doing for a segment is having fans of another fan base that also happy to be whiskey drinkers. So you have a cross-pollination going on in different mediums and arenas. Talk to Knicks and having them scouting your team, our team. I think it's a really smart move, and I want to give you some flowers for coming up with that idea.
Appreciate that, bro. Yeah, it's fun, man. It's cool because it's like we all know what we think, we know what we think of our players, but to see how other fans, especially now, like you always would hear that, fans would talk negatively or laugh at the Knicks, for years. Now to hear good teams be like, we fear, playing you guys, and here's why, like that's good to hear. It's cool to hear. And especially, with Phil being someone that is on the other side of the trade that made us better, but also made them better, it's just kind of cool to be able to have those kind of conversations.
Think about 4 or 5 years ago when Minnesota just got Ant-Man and Memphis just got Ja, and the Knicks were like left with RJ Barrett. No disrespect to RJ Barrett, but he definitely doesn't have a star power then or now with those two guys. And now you're having those two people on this podcast, fans of those two franchises, and the Knicks are the clear winner, the clear contender, while those two are going through, some bumps and bruises worse than the other. But there's a huge discrepancy between our trajectory and the trajectory of Minnesota and Memphis.
And that's such a great point because, like, as Knicks fans, how many temper tantrums did we all have, or Twitter have about who we drafted and as opposed to them, and how we should have done things like Memphis or how we should have done things like Minnesota, and now to be able to see where we're at, that has to be something that makes you go and give flowers to Leon Rose, like in that time from RJ Barrett to now. Look at the transformation of our team. Look at how far we've come. And look where Memphis is still at, regardless of getting that pick, regardless of getting the player that we wished that we had. They're stagnant and we're making moves, so that it makes you have to give, your flowers to Leon Rose and the front office for the changes that they've been making.
100%, especially a team like Minnesota. I'll tackle them first, who drafted one of the most star-studded, high-ceiling players in the last 10, 15 years in Anthony Edwards, someone who's expected to come in and immediately have a Luka-level impact, meaning it don't matter who else is on the roster, you're going to be at the very least a 7th or 8th seed. And he was able to do that for a team that has been one of the worst losers in the NBA, along with us and the Charlotte Hornets over the last 25 years. And then Memphis, who took the approach that many Knicks fans, wanted to take, which is draft, tank, and try to get as many good picks as you can. Memphis might have been the best drafting team in the NBA, in my opinion, over the last 5 years, of a team who didn't have lottery picks. They are so good at drafting in the second round and at drafting outside of a lottery. And that's what a lot of Knicks fans wanted us to do, is like, let's really capitalize on young players, build a young core, and contend that way. And Memphis is a great example. It doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes John Morant taking top 3, I believe he was in second in that draft after Zion Williamson and before RJ Barrett, is now the source of your headache. And his value is so low, you're probably not going to get equal trade back in that scenario. So now what? You don't have a backup point guard now anymore. How do you build around that team when you have mostly 2 guards and wings? And you have some bigs, but some bigs that play defense and some that only play offense. It's a tough scenario. Leon Rose has put a masterclass on balancing all 3, the draft, trades, and free agency. Not very many executives can say the same thing.
Yeah. And I love it because as a Knicks fan, hindsight's 2020. Like we were very upset for a long time on certain things, and yet Leon had a plan from the get-go. We just needed to be patient, wait and see it. And so now I love being able to talk to guys like Phil, talk to girls like Christy, and be able to see that what we're witnessing is not delusion. It's not Knicks delusion, because I'll be honest, we've had moments like that where we're like, oh yeah, the Knicks are going to do this. And then it's like, absolutely, everyone's like, what are you talking about? You guys are still trash. But now being able to have those kind of conversations and then being like, what you guys have is incredible. What you guys are building is incredible. Like what we're seeing from Cat, what we're seeing from Towns, and from Brunson and McBride and OG and McHale is actually something that we're just not delusional diehard Knick fans enjoying it. It's actually something that is recognized by everyone in the league, and that makes me excited.
Something that's not talked about a lot is that the Knicks used to not have a archetype of the type of star or superstar that they went after. They went after whoever was available and whoever was willing to come. It didn't matter what point of their career trajectory or value or health they were at. We were going to give them the max contract and sign first round and trade first round picks for them. We actually have an archetype now, and I want to credit Scott Perry for creating that archetype, which is someone who gives forth effort, someone who has a high ceiling. He always says this: someone that impacts winning. Not a Cam Thomas, not a gunner, not someone who puts up empty stats, but actually impacts winning. And if you think about the type of model player that Scott Perry went after and now Leon Rose has gone after, that not every star is a right star for the Knicks. We pass on that line on the sand when the other team is not willing to meet us there and is pushing us to go all in. We step away and we say, okay, these negotiations aren't for us. And that has led us to get players who are able to not just play with each other, but augment their game and take a step back in certain areas for the betterment of the team. That's John Morant's a perfect example of that. Yeah, so is Zion Williams. You take that big swing at number 1 or number 2, but does that player fit the culture you're trying to build? And are they going to be accountable as the head of a snake for that culture you're trying to build? And say what you want about Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. Neither of them, in my opinion, are stars. Randle is very good, but to me, they both exemplified that character, that two-way character that Leon Rose wanted to go after. And you see it even Karl-Anthony Towns, he tries on defense, right? Jalen Brunson tries on defense. OG McHale try on offense. Josh Hart, Deuce, Mitch, those are the guys that, and I don't want credit Scott Perry, those are the guys that exemplify New York Knicks basketball.
Yeah. And it's true. Like at the end of the day, like I said, Julius Randle has always been a great player. He just didn't fit what New York culture is. It's just bottom line. At the end of the day, he couldn't handle it. And honestly, Knicks fans were a little bit ridiculous at times too. Let's call a spade a spade. They were a little bit over the top, a little bit ridiculous, a little bit vile at times. But at the end of the day, Julius Randle, you got to give your, kudos to him. He brought winning to New York. Him and Tibbs brought something back to New York, which is winning, started giving us a competitive culture again that we hadn't had in years. So kudos to them. But just like I always said about Tibbs, I said about Randle, those guys were the stepping stone to get us to where we need to go. They were they were very foundational. They're just not the golden ticket to get us to that next spot. And I feel like Jalen Brunson I feel like Cat, the way he's played these last 2 games is that. Like, if Cat continues to play the way that he's playing, like, this is knocking on the door for a chip. Like, this is what I'm excited about, is them actually playing to their strengths and allowing the game to come to them, because that's what we saw the last 2 games, and that was exciting for me.
Another thing that's not talked about enough or even at all is that even though RJ Barrett didn't end up being the guy, and Julius Randle ended up not being the guy, and Tom Thibodeau ended up not being the coach, none of those 3 guys stopped us from getting OG, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson. Right? They didn't stop us from getting free agents like Jordan Clarkson or making trades and having guys like Josh Hart come in and buy in. They were guys that didn't disrupt the chemistry and the culture of a New York Knicks, where sometimes when you have the wrong coach, it can throw a wrench into your entire system, and players don't want to go there because they don't want to play for Phil Jackson as the executive of basketball operations, or Steve Mills, or Larry Brown. Guys in the past the Knicks have signed that were flashy names, but killed your culture. And you either did not get guys that you wanted because of them, or once they left, their guys left along with them. Now it doesn't matter if there's a guys come and go, the culture remains the same because everyone that's brought in, whether they worked out or not, fits a certain identity that Leon Rose is looking for.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like this Knicks team is what we have been waiting for a really, really long time. That last game, to me, is one of the best that I've seen Karl Anthony Towns. And yes, he had bigger numbers in that game against the Wizards, but I wanted to see him do it against a dominant big. I wanted to see him actually have the confidence and assertiveness to play with strength and with, you know, his finesse and doing it in a balanced way. And he did that against Rudy Gobert, someone that has been a dominant staple for big man defense over the last few years. So if we see that kind of Karl Anthony Towns, and I got to give kudos to Jalen Brunson, because one thing a lot of stars can't do is make an adjustment to their game to completely change how they do things. Jalen Brunson in this short period of time has been able to go from full ISO to be able to play off ball and still be dominant in his one-on-one ISO opportunities. Like, he has shown that he is such a versatile and like willing to adapt player. Like, that is what deserves the title captain, is someone that's willing to say, okay, I can either complain about the situation changing or I can excel in the situation changing. And that's what Jalen Brunson has done over the start of the season. So kudos to him. Kudos to Kat. Appreciate them both. What we're seeing is great.
I'll tell you what, Phil, that game last night, I think that was my favorite regular season win, maybe of my entire Knicks fandom. And I want to remind the chat, I started watching in the year 2002. Right after the ECF. So I wasn't here for the 90s, wasn't here for the 99 finals run where they had to win like 12 games in a row in order to make the 8th seed. Wasn't here for all that. I've been here mostly for the poverty of James Dolan. And in my regular season, there were some great wins. I think about that triple overtime win when Manuel quickly went off against Boston Celtics. That was a great regular season win. But this one was exactly how I wanted my New York Knicks to look my entire life. Yeah. They looked like Golden State in the 2010s. They looked like the San Antonio Spurs in the 2010s. They looked like the Los Angeles Lakers, the Detroit Pistons of the early 2000s. Ball is moving. The guys are not playing within their ego. They're playing within the system. There's constant cutting, constant string settings, constant action on the weak side and the off ball to get guys good looks and open shots. Karl Anthony Towns didn't have to go off. Jalen Brunson didn't have to go off. But Mikal Bridges showed that he can be the backup playmaker with the bench unit. OG Anunoby can show that he can be one of the best snipers, not just in the corners, but anywhere on the three-point line. Jordan Clarkson showed that, listen, man, you need a bailout shot on a grenade, he's going to give it to you. Deuce Bride showed he's not only a movement shooter, he's got some of that moxie and that mid-range shot. He has a nice little push shot and a nice pull-up jumper 15, 18 feet out. It was the whole gamut. Mitchell Robinson, offensive rebounds. Karl Anthony Towns, bully ball in the paint with that power dribble. What more can you possibly want from a team? Yeah. This is what got us in the top 5 net rating after that game against a superior Western Conference rival and a team that is good on both offense and defense. Yeah. Like you said, the Rudy Gobert matchup, pivotal for Mitchell Robinson to have that level of output against one of the best centers in the NBA. To me, I've done on the KOT show and was like, this is my favorite win of my favorite regular season win of my Knicks fandom.
Yeah, and I love it. Real quick, shout out to my guy, Matt. He was on the episode last time. He was the Bulls fan. He's still rocking and supporting with the show. He had a great time being on it. I had a great time having him. He's here reposting the stream, so shout out to him. But this is one thing that I want to like fans to realize. You got people that can't move on and can't enjoy the moment. Like you said, the system is moving. Like, players are like shining And it doesn't rely on the back of one player to be a savior for this team, because the ball is moving in such different ways that you have guys like Clarkson that can come in for 16 minutes and put up 15 points. Like, you have things like that happening. You have the Mikal Bridges that everyone was complaining that he wasn't last year and that it was too many picks, and now he's doing all the things that you guys wanted him to do, and you're still not celebrating him. Like, OG is developing, and Miles McBride is contributing like incredibly on offense and defense. Mitch is everything that Ebony has been wanting and saying Mitch is going to be for years. Like, we are seeing things that we've all wanted. And so when people are like, oh, I don't believe in Mike Brown, there is no system. What system? If you can watch these games and not believe there's a system, the problem is not Mike Brown. The problem is that you don't know ball, and you don't want to know ball, because we had one thing that Lee posted, and if you didn't watch this on his Twitter, you need to go back and watch this. When have I ever in the last 5 years seen the Knicks set a double screen where Clarkson and Mitch are both setting screens on opposing players? And then when Clarkson finishes that screen, Mitchell Robinson comes and screens the guy that he just screened. Like, double screening the same guy while you just screened somebody else so that that shooter could get free. Like, we've never seen defensive schemes and offensive schemes the way that we're seeing them right now. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It is beautiful to watch. I am so thankful for that last game, because we have seen players put up big numbers and celebrated that player, but still walked away with an L. Like, we are now in a different era where it's not just about the number next to Brunson's name at the end of the night. It's not just a number at the end of Cat's name at the end of the night. It's at the end of the night, what did our team do? And the fact that we already have, what are we, 7 games in?
Yeah.
7 games in, and we already have 3 games where we have 30 plus assists. That's incredible. That's incredible to see. Like, our team is actually functioning as a unit, looking out for one another. Everybody's eating, and that makes me excited as a Knicks fan, because I would watch Golden State, I would watch these other teams, and I'd be like, can we do that? Like, is that possible? Can we at least try that? OKC? Oh, okay. Young guys being able to try that and it be successful. Why can't we? And now we're seeing it. So shout out to the Knicks. Shout out to the front office. Shout out to Mike Brown. Shout out for Lee Escobedo putting out those videos so that y'all who are missing those moments can actually see what is actually going in to this system and the beauty of it. Because it is a lot more complex than some people are going to see. Because some people are just watching to see the highlight reels and watching to see the number of their favorite player, that they're missing the actual beauty that's going on in our offense and defense.
Appreciate that, bid bro. I always down the pod since preseason, trying to temper expectations and kind of calling out, being a little edgy about what I would see on Twitter and YouTube, and even articles written by beat reporters who are paid to report about the Knicks, claiming doom and gloom because a certain person wasn't hitting their point per game, or what's up with Jordan Clarkson. Even right now, we're hearing things about Yabusele. Is he washed? Was this a bad signing? People wishing for Precious Achua instead of Yabusele. It's like, just take time. Things take time to accumulate, and people take time to acclimate. Those are 2 very important things to remember when you're watching your favorite team play basketball. It's also important to watch other teams play basketball, so that you understand that your team is not the only one going through growing pains. Your players not the only ones that are going through a shooting slump. Like, especially when RJ Barrett would go through his months-long shooting slump, it would remind me to say, you know what? Let me watch the New Orleans Pelicans tonight and remember this is the 17th game in a row Zion Williamson hasn't played. Or let me go watch Sacramento Kings tonight and remember this is the 20th game in a row they've been bottom 5 in the defensive efficiency. It's important to expand your mind and realize that other teams are struggling. Anthony Edwards is very hobbled coming back from that hamstring injury. I hope it's not something that keeps him out. They're a championship contender. Memphis Grizzlies are dealing with their number 2 pick from the 2019 draft, basically asking out without asking out. Trae
Yeah.
Young is injured. Who knows when he's coming back for the Atlanta Hawks? They made huge moves to be championship contenders this year, and it hasn't worked out yet. Cleveland Cavaliers have been dealing with not only Darius Garland missing time, but Evan Mobley not seeing me take that jump that people thought he would to be the first option. Look at the Orlando Magic and their shooting slumps and the inefficiencies in the mid-range from Paolo Banchero. If you watch the rest of the NBA, you'll understand the Knicks' problems aren't real problems. They're luxuries that a championship contender deals with on the way to a championship. I remember in the year 2007. Don't worry, Phil, I'm going to land my plane after this quick parable going back in time. 2007, my father and I used to get drunk and watch the Knicks at a Razzoos near my house in South Dallas. And one year we went there, and it was when Mavs were on. And we had to ask one of the bartenders to change the channel from the Mavs to the Knicks. And we asked him, hey, do you mind putting the Knicks on? We know you guys have NBA Pass. And he looked at me and he was like, why do you want to watch the Knicks? Mind you, 2007, Eddie Curry. We also had Jerome James. We had Zach Randolph. We had Marty Collins. This was a really ass-crack roster.
Yeah.
One of the worst rosters. But names that people were like, why isn't that working when they were watching the Knicks or at least at the bot store? And I remember watching Zach Randolph go off in the first half. And I was like, wow, Dad, could this be the year we win a championship? Imagine someone saying that in 2007, how little I knew. By the time a second half finished, Zach Randolph did not score in a second half. And I had been talking so much crap in that bar. They booed me and my dad out of the restaurant. And what I had to go home to, I didn't have hopes of draft picks and draft caches and young players and one of the best young cores and an emerging superstar. I still had that same cruddy roster, that same cruddy coach, the same cruddy GM, and most importantly, the same cruddy owner that was going to guarantee that the next 13 years of my life was going to be spent in purgatory watching the same team lose game after game, season after season. So what we have now, Knicks fans, the issues we have now, be grateful for them because they're issues of a championship contender, not the issues of a bottom-feeding, lottery-bound dumpster fire.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. You know, like it's funny when we were doing Dictionary, I had Apollo trying to guess which Nick it was. I don't know if you saw that part. It was a lot of fun. And so while he's trying to guess, someone put Bargani in the chat.
That was me, bro. That was me.
You. I was like, I didn't put a toilet in that image. What are you talking about? You know, so I'm excited. You know, like someone up here, right here, you know, Nick Yak was like, Mitch's screens and box outs gets overlooked. And here's one thing. I want to give kudos to these players because these are professional athletes making millions of dollars that are still developing their craft. Because one thing that you look back last year, the year before, the thing that bothered me the most was how sloppy some of Mitchell Robinson's picks were in pick and rolls. It seemed like people were sliding off of him easily. He wasn't being assertive in them. People were getting by him. Like, it just did not seem like it was going to be effective. And now, this season, his pick and rolls are incredible. Like, what I am seeing from Mitchell Robinson is next level. Like, this is next level Mitchell Robinson. Like, he's still doing the things that we loved for him to do. He's grabbing those rebounds. He's being assertive with the defense. But now he's got this pick and roll that is producing, like, results left and right. But he's also developing an offensive confidence that he didn't have before. And I think that this is under that Mike Brown system of allowing him to actually play to his skill sets, because when you would see him get a rebound 95% of the time previously, unless there was no one else around him, it was always a dish back out. Like it always was. It was finding Jalen again. Now he's getting confident to put that ball back up. And it's not what he used to do, which was like dribble the ball. And then if he had the open dunk, he would go up for it. But he was typically never open because he did that weird dribble after getting the rebound. Now he's just grabbing boards and dunking. Like, this is another level of Mitchell Robinson. We are seeing the development of players this year, and it's just the start of the season. We are seeing things that we want to see. The things that so many people said about Cat, him being soft. Last 2 games, that's not soft. Like, he's showing he can be a finesse and a tough player at the same time. That's the Cat that we need. Jalen Brunson, when was the last game you saw him dribble the ball for 18 seconds out of 24? It's not happening. Mikal Bridges, he's doing everything that you would want Mikal Bridges to do. Makes you go 5 picks? Who cares? OG Anunoby being everything you want him to be. So, in my opinion, yes, there's been some bumpy games, but what we're seeing in the good highlights is what we need to focus on, because this is a brand new system with new pieces, and yet our highs are higher than they've been in years. So let's not focus on the few lows of the losses that we had. Let's look at those highs and see the massive progression the Knicks have already taken in the start of the season, and just look to what this season could be once it actually starts clicking. Because the new system is going to become something we fully understand, and it's going to flow even smoother than it's flowed the last few games. So I'm excited for the rest of the season.
That's such a badass take. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it opens a door for me to talk about some things I've talked about too that are minute, and you don't really find the opening to be able to talk about them. But you're absolutely right. We differ on our opinions of Tom Thibodeau, for sure. But I think Mike Brown has been exactly the kind of coach that we've needed if Tom Thibodeau was going to be fired. We needed someone that didn't put players in a box. And something I always argued with is that, and Ebony has said this perfectly, she phrased it as, you don't know what a player has until you let them have a chance to do it. Yep. And Mitchell Robinson, we didn't really know what he could be once he sets a down strain. Can he be someone that isn't just a lob threat, but can have that bounce pass and then actually make a gather and a move and dunk? Yep. Yes, he can. Can Mikal Bridges, if he's more on ball, be someone who can be a table setter for the rest of his teammates? Yes, he can. Without a real point guard on the floor, he can. Can Deuce McBride be somebody who's just not a catch and shoot option on the perimeter, but can actually have the ball in his hands and create space with his dribble and his handle in the mid-range? Yes, he can. Can OG Anunoby become a volume shooter? Yes, he can. I love this. Mike Brown isn't putting anyone in a box, and he's using the early season to experiment. So you don't experiment like Tibbs did in the damn second round of the playoffs, and people are doing things now they haven't done all season. So it's not repetitious. It's a struggle against some of the best defense you're going to see all year, top-tier teams. That's the wrong approach. Mike Brown's doing it now. So you can work out the kinks, find out what works, and then add that to your repertoire and cachet of weapons once the playoff season starts. And you kind of know your personnel based on who you're playing. You can mix that lineup up and mix that action up based on who you're playing against. And one more thing about Mitchell Robinson, I want to say, the strings. I really credit that to Mark Bryant. Having those type of coaches that weren't stars, but were stars in their roles, it's important to have at least one or two of that on your staff. Mark Bryant was a great one. Before that, we had Othello Harrington. Before then, we had Kenny Payne. But having the big man be on the team, it can teach the little things and refining the fundamentals of your fours and your fives. I think Mark Bryant has been a great person. Mark Bryant, does anyone remember any highlight of Mark Bryant in maybe his 10 or 11, 12-year career? No, because he was a role player, into the bench, third-string center, undersized. But when he came in the game, he had it affected with hustle, 50-50 balls, loose out-of-bounds balls, crashing the boards, offensive rebounding, and screen setting. The players that played around him had better shots because of his screens that he set. So those are the type of fundamentals that he's going to bring to the high usage guys like Cat Carnathan Towns and Mitchell Robinson and Hot Porty eventually, that will make them even better and more enhanced playing along with their teammates. So shout out Mark Bryant.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Like, and that's the one thing that we agree on certain things with Tibbs, like I give him the flowers for what he did, because we weren't a competitive team, until the point that he came here. We weren't competitive. But like Ebony, that was always my biggest gripe, was this player's skill set is not what you're trying to make him do. And then you are having an issue with them not performing to the level of what you wanted them to do, but that's not who they ever were. And that was my frustration. And so watching Mike Brown have a system, but yet each player be able to do what they do well within that system. It's different because Tibbs' system was, I tell you who to be, and that's what I want to see you do. That's Mike true. Brown is, I know who you are, and this is how you fit in my system. So do this, but do it like this. So it's still their skill sets, but it's how they do it. So that's why you see Jalen Brunson being able to still be effective and put 30-something points up without having to dribble the ball 18 seconds out of the clock. He's still putting up the same kind of numbers. Why? Because he's still using his skill sets within a system that makes it to where he doesn't have to do all that, and now he's getting buckets easier. You got guys like Jordan Clarkson that don't have to be there on the court for 20, 30 minutes to be productive, but still give us 15 points in 16 minutes doing what they do. Catch that ball and shoot it. You're not always going to make it, but you're going to make enough of them that it's going to be impactful for our team. Like, he looks at the skill sets of the player. And that's what I love. And I think that that's why we're going to see a whole different Karl-Anthony Towns than we've ever seen before. I think we're going to see a Karl-Anthony Towns that did what he did these last 2 days, a little bit of strength in the paint, pick and pops, being able to bring the ball down and facilitate, and utilize all of his strengths. I don't think that Tibbs allowed us to see all of his strengths. And now Cat didn't know what his place in the offense was going to be. And I think now in these last 2 games, he's starting to realize that he can be his full self within this Knicks organization for the first time in a long time. And so I'm excited to see it. I love it. I love what Mike Brown's doing. I truly believe that this is going to be, something that takes us to where we want to go. This isn't a referendum on Tibbs. Honestly, another year with this core, Tibbs likely gets us to the finals. Many fair weather fans were literally, no, I don't think so. Like, that's my thing. And here's my thing. My take was, even if we made it to the finals last year, I remember saying it on a show with Lee, and Lee going, dang, that's a bold take. I said, even if we go to the finals, and we were all talking about it, it was the whole KOT family show. I said, even if he gets us to the finals, I want this to be Tibbs' last year, because I felt like we had done everything we could growth-wise, whether it was a chip or not. Growth-wise, as a team and as players, I felt like we were reaching a ceiling under Tom Thibodeau, and I feel like this is already proof. We're seeing differences in Jalen Brunson's game. We're seeing differences in Mikhail's game, OG's game, Cat's game. All of these guys are growing because they're able to actually do things differently. And what I like about Mike Brown is he hasn't always been successful so far this season, but he's taken accountability of that. He's taken accountability and said, I don't know what I was doing that game. I made a lot of mistakes. I put in a lot of the wrong rotations, and the team suffered for it, and I'm going to learn from it. So that's what I love, is not just the players are learning how this new system is going to work, but Mike Brown's allowing to learn how his system is going to work better with these players and their skill sets. So he's willing to make changes to actually make it all work. Changes happening on both ends, players, coach, system, and it's going to come together, and it's going to be beautiful.
I agree with Anadrill, Lloyd's barber, on that last post. I'll bring it up one more time in case people forgot. I agree with this statement. The way this statement is worded, I agree 100%. I think if Tom Thibodeau had this roster, I think we could make the finals. The reason that I say that is because Boston and Indiana are not the same teams they were last season. That's an advantage that Tibbs would have, as well as he has shown he can already beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in the playoff series. So I'm not concerned with, and I consider them the second best team in the East. So I don't think there would have been a very difficult path in the East for him to come out of, because you wouldn't have to worry about facing Rick Carlisle, a very low likelihood of having a SPO in the Eastern Conference Finals. But the finals, I don't think we would have won a championship with Tom Thibodeau as a head coach, because I don't think he would have been able to out-steam, I'm going to say Joker instead of Adelman, because he's the real coach. I don't think he would have been able to out-steam Mark Daigneault or even JJ Redick. I think those guys would have watched enough tape and been experimental enough to have something in their bag to counter the 4 or 5 plays that Tibbs absolutely spanned to great success, to 50-plus win seasons, to Eastern Conference Finals. But I don't think he would have been able to beat the Western Conference rival we would have faced in that final series. But Tibbs, one thing I'll give him credit for 2 things. Tibbs knew 6 or 7 things that would guarantee 2 points for us. You think about them, like Karl-Anthony Towns on the elbow, or the one-man Josh Hart fast break downhill, or the Isaiah Hartenstein push shot, or the Deuce McBride catch and shoot 3. those plays that he ran over and over, whether it's pistol action, the horn sets that he played with Mitch and Cat once he went double bid, those things got us guaranteed buckets. Like he knew what plays worked for our personnel. Where he failed at was maximizing guys, specifically the 2 and the 3, to be more than just 3 and D players. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, even Josh Hart to a certain extent, certainly Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Dante DiVincenzo. Those guys had to find their own opportunities to become more than what their role was allowing them to be in order to succeed at a higher level than whatever Tibbs was really keeping them confined to. And that was my biggest criticism of personnel and play calling with Tom Thibodeau, is that Quentin Grimes would have never become what he was in Dallas or in Philadelphia with us, because Tibbs would have never allowed him to have the leash to become that. Same thing with Obi Toppin, as a constant, someone who leaks out. He wanted him crashing the boards. Obi's not a strong rebounder. Have him leaking out so he can be a one-man transition guy. He can catch that outlet pass, that advanced pass, and then easy layups. Tibbs instead had him on the block trying to box out when that's not his forte with his skinny legs. But I do think Jalen Brunson, the perfect coach for him to reach that new level, was Tom Thibodeau. Because if Tom Thibodeau is excellent at any position, it's putting the ball in a point guard's hand and saying, I trust you to do what you need to do to win us a game. I don't know if Brunson, if he would have had a different, maybe 7 out of 10 of the best coaches in the NBA, don't know if he would have hit this level. 1-time All-Star, 2-time All-Star, maybe. 3rd-team All-NBA, maybe. But the level he hit, where he's winning clutch player of the year, he's in the conversations for best point guard in the NBA, Tom Thibodeau was one of the perfect coaches that had that ecosystem for him to thrive and reach his full potential.
Yeah, and I'll give you that. I think Tibbs can create winning players. We've seen that. We've seen him create winning players. We've seen, the Derrick Roses, and those players rising. We saw Cat in Minnesota. I feel like he can create. Yeah, I feel like I feel like he can create winning players. But at the end of the day, I don't think and it's proven it, he can't create winning franchise teams, like to actually take it to the finals and actually be that team that gets to where you want it to go. And I think it's because he puts so much value on that player that he made great, that he doesn't worry about the other people on the roster. Like he focuses on those 1 or 2s. Julius Randle became what Julius Randle became under Tom Thibodeau. Kudos. Hartenstein became what Hartenstein became under him. Kudos. However, making those players individually better, yet worrying about those 3 guys that you want to make that great, yet the other 6 on your roster don't really know who they are or can't really play to their strong suits at all, can only take you so far. Because we even saw it. Players were like, okay, let's figure out how to throw everything at Jalen Brunson. And that far into the season, those guys who have no identity, what do? You're known to just give the ball back to Jalen Brunson. And now the teams don't care about you. They're focusing on Jalen Brunson. You don't have the confidence to do it. You saw Grimes. Grimes went from confidently shooting as a rookie to gradually doubting every single shot. It was just how it was. And so I think Tibbs created great players, which is why I think Tibbs would be good to be an assistant coach or, a player development coach, to work with their main players to get them to that next place. But as a whole constructed team, you're starting to see so many players from 1 to 10 on our roster contribute and get to winning. And you have to guard 1 to 10 on our roster because everybody is a part of our offense and our defense. So that's the only thing I'll say there. I'll go to you for closing takes because it's getting late over here. Got some time I want to spend with my wifey. Appreciate those in the chat. Thank you guys so much for being here and rocking with us for so long. Shout out to my guy Wolverines who just recently joined. What are your closing takes? What are your thoughts against this 1-7 Brooklyn Net team we got coming up this weekend? And what can people look out for when it comes to Lee Escobedo?
Well, I'll say that the Brooklyn paint jobs, as Jay Ellis calls them, that's going to be an opportunity for us to see Diawara play more minutes and
Yeah.
Hunt-Porty, and hopefully Trey Jameson the third as well. That I'm not worried about winning the game. Certainly not worried about losing. I'm worried about the end of the bench rotation, getting some extra burn. Because I think even our third stringers are about as good or better than the current Nets current roster, which is not saying very much. But I really hate that team. I actually think the Brooklyn Nets are here's some more props for Tibbs. The Brooklyn Nets are the only team Tibbs to not become a coach of and take to the playoffs. I think he became a coach of the Wizards. Right now, the Wizards make the playoffs in the East.
Yeah,
Hornets, playoffs in the East.
Yeah.
Anyone except for the Nets, that's how bad their roster is. Because I think Tom Thibodeau's greatest strength is taking a team with no identity, giving them an identity, and helping them make the playoffs for the first time in a long time. Bro, I'm not a trade proposals guy. That's Fritz, bro. It's not me. Anyways, this month of November is very easy schedule, in my opinion. I'm not trying to say that the Knicks are going to destroy it and beat everyone and go undefeated, but there's really only one small stretch of difficult games that are very difficult for us. The Miami Heat. We'd have back-to-back Miami Heat in the middle of November. That's going to be the best test this month. Otherwise, I think we likely win every other game that we play. We believe we played Memphis coming up as well. And I don't think there's anyone else until December when the schedule really starts tightening. So this is the time for us to rack up some wins. So when we start getting to the tougher stretches of the season, December and January, we have some padding on that win-loss record for us. That if we need to, we can sit some guys. If maybe Karl-Anthony Towns or Mitchell Robinson need some additional rest. But I'm looking for November to be a very successful month for the win column. And then, of course, please subscribe to the KOT Substack. I'll drop in the chat. I'm trying to churn out content to make Knicks fans smarter, more informed. Hopefully, I'm never talking down to you. I hope be talking with you and explain some of these offensive concepts that Mike Brown is slowly implementing into the Knicks wheelhouse. One of them being the wheel motion offense. And so subscribe and hopefully give me feedback on how I'm doing. And if there's any other concepts or defensive strategies you want to learn more about, please let me know, and I'll be dropping them in my book club recommendation video coming soon. Thanks to my main man, Phil.
Hell yeah. This boy's killing it. If you guys have not, been following up with his Substacks, like, come on, get on it. And I'm going to be real with you guys. When I came to KOT from, the other channel I was at, I came to KOT for one reason. And that's because actually two reasons. One, brilliant takes. Okay. All through and through. Every single person on this KOT network has a beautiful basketball mind, and their fandom is partnered with that beautiful basketball mind, and it's beautiful to watch. All right. And so I came here for that. Second, there's no egos. Everybody on this channel supports one another and wants to see one another succeed. And that is rare to find when you get a ton of different voices, a ton of different people on it. And then I'll even say one more. And third, and that I like the fact that every single person that is part of this KOT family are people that I would rock with on a Friday night, at a Knicks game, at a cookout,
amen,
on my porch. These are people of high character that I believe in, not just as Knicks content creators, but as people. And so forget me. You don't want to rock with my show. That's fine. Like, that's on you. But I need you all to push this KOT network. Like, push these guys. They deserve it. Shout out to Jay Ellis. Shout out to Fritz. Shout out to Ryan G. Shout out to Ebony. Shout out to B. Shout out to Eb. Like, shout out to the team. Do me a favor and subscribe. And if you have subscribed, it doesn't take much to make a post, to invite some people, tag them on a Twitter post, tag them on an Instagram post. This account is at 8,909 subscribers. My goal is to see it at 9,000 before this month is done and see it past 10,000 before the start of this year. And I know we can, and it comes with your guys' help. Like, please, you see what we're trying to do. You see what we're trying to build here. You see that we're not trying to talk at you. We're trying to talk with you. It's always an open platform for you guys to come and share your takes. We want this to be like it's our living room, and we're inviting you all in. So please subscribe. Please support. It doesn't take much to support. We want to do big, big things, and we can only do that with you all. So please subscribe. Also, I will be in Dallas in a few days. I believe I get there on the 19th, and the Knicks play the Mavericks. If you are a Knicks fan in Dallas, me and Lee are going to meet up. I don't have tickets yet. I'm hoping I miraculously can go to the game, but either way, I'll be in the area. If you want to hook up with me and Lee before or after the game and create some content, have some fun, please hit me up on Instagram, on Twitter, wherever, and let's set that up. Because I'm looking forward to connecting with my guy Lee and his pops and, you know, being able to enjoy a Knicks victory. So hopefully I'll get tickets. I'm going to have to look on SeatGeek or something like that. Or if any of y'all got Knicks tickets in Dallas and you don't want to go to the game, I'll let your boy. But either way, appreciate you guys. Have a great night. Lee, it's all love. Always. I appreciate you, bro. And Saturday night, is a Sunday night. Make sure that right after the game, you guys are here. The only thing I'll say, Lee, about the schedule is that at the end of the month, we do have the Bucks. So this is our, you know, redemption game against the Bucks.
Good point.
And being able, I think that is even more of a statement game for us. I feel like the Heat, especially if Hero's not back, it doesn't really show us exactly what they're going to be like completely when we play them. But playing Giannis, we need to see the cat that we saw last night and the cat that we saw against the Wizards. We need to see that cat against Giannis. We need to see what that, you know, Clash of the Titans can look like. So I'm looking forward to that game, end of November. I think it's on the 28th. It's my son's birthday, so I won't watch it till he goes to sleep. But I want you guys to stay tuned to that one because I feel like that's going to be the statement game. But like always, appreciate all of you guys. Appreciate my guy Apollo, my guy Lee. I appreciate Phil Steger of Brother Justus and the whole crew at Brother Justus. Christy for coming on and sharing her takes as a Memphis Grizzly fan. And like always, God bless. And if you drink responsibly. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. Until next time, go Knicks.
This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing.